My name is Big Time. We're going to be hopefully hanging with Wicked today. Going to be talking about, well, like I said, if she jumps on, I got some topics planned and potentially a video that I'm sure we'll get this taken down, of course. So got to be careful what we talk about and how we say it because yay, censorship. So let's see. We're going to be going to Redux, just going to pick a story. We got to keep rubbing their face in it. But that doesn't matter. They'll never change. Let's see. What do we got? UK. Oh, of course. Let's see. Let's do this one. Got to keep talking about New Jersey. Trans identified male presents on woman's empowerment at New Jersey prison plagued by violent male transfers. The Edna Mahan Correctional Facility for Women. There are currently 27 men in there. A man who identifies as transgender presented a speech for a woman's empowerment event held at New Jersey's only correctional facility for women on June 20th, where he lectured female inmates on the importance of inclusivity. Wow, what a slap in the face to all the women. Imagine being in prison and letting rapists around you and being told that you have to include them. Lene Grant reportedly told the woman that he believes cisgender women may hesitate to accept men with dicks as female due to jealousy or competition between the groups for male sex. Oh, that's right. They're jealous. That's a very common theme the left does. The left will say, oh, the left is fascinating. Retards are fascinating. They'll say, oh, the reason that you don't like gays is because you're homophobic. So first it'll be, oh, you're homophobic. But then the next thing they'll say is, so they present it as the victim. And then they'll say, oh, well, the reason you're homophobic is because actually deep down you're gay. And then they'll use it as a burn or a sting or an insult. So first they'll say that the multi-letter mafia are the victims, but then they'll use it as a way to insult you, which is kind of weird. And then they don't get called out for using it as an insult. It's strange. A source inside the Edna Mahan Correctional Facility for Women passed information on to Redux regarding the reactions of the female inmates who attended the event and heard Grant speak. Kokila Hyatt, an inmate at the facility, told Redux that many, if not all, the women who had attended had not been made aware that the event would be addressing the topic of gender identity. Hyatt explained that a portion of Grant's presentation emphasized that female inmates ought to accept that transgender women are women, amongst other pro-gender ideology themes. So this is essentially, you have to take the dick. They're now telling women inmates that you have to take female dick. This is mandatory dick. Many women behaved in a polite manner by sitting and listening. A lot of people just tuned out. No one was anticipating what this event was really about. It was billed as a women's empowerment event. His picture was on the sign-up sheet, but this person visibly passes as a woman, so no one thought anything of it when they signed up to attend. Attendance was not required, and that people signed up to attend, but please remember, no one knew what it was they were really signing up for. They were duped into attending something for this tranny. This event was government funded and facilitated. It occurred in the gym of this unit, which means New Jersey's Department of Corrections executive staff from Trenton had to have approved it. Custody staff members here had to enable inmate movement and supervise attendance. Some members of the facility's administrative staff were present. Speaking with NG Advanced Media in 2021, Grant explained that prior to claiming a female identity, he believed he was a gay man. I remember playing with a group of kids and I just had a natural attraction for the same sex. It was a couple of boys I thought were cute, and as I grew older, I gravitated more in that direction. He stated that he began transitioning into a woman 10 years ago when at the age of 28, he began taking estrogen. He has since undergone genital surgery and received chest implants, which the outlet referred to as breast reconstructive surgery. One struggle cited by Grant, which motivated his decision to undergo surgery, was his discomfort at attending pool parties or going to the beach. I didn't feel comfortable going to the beach. It stopped me from doing a lot of things, events, pool parties, especially anything that involved me showing my body. These breasts are an essential part of a female that's not just physically for the eye, but for the mind too. Last year, Grant was quietly appointed to the Board of Trustees for Edna Mahan Correctional Facility for Women by New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy. According to an announcement posted to the state-run website for the Office of the Governor, Grant was touted as a longtime activist for the rights of the transgender community, including transgender persons that are currently incarcerated. Prior to his appointment in a leadership role at the all-women's prison, he worked as an HIV counselor and tester. Boy, the rabbit hole just goes deeper. No pun intended. He has created promotional materials for the North Jersey Community Research Initiative on the topic of AIDS awareness. On June 2021, the state of Jersey reached a settlement with the ACLU, NG, and agreed to adopt major reforms in prison policies, which would allow housing according to a self-declared and subjective gender identity rather than on biological sex. The case which prompted the policy change was brought forward by the ACLU, a communist organization, on behalf of convicted terrorist and Marine Corps veteran Daniel Smith, who was investigated by the FDBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force and the Atlanta County Prosecutor's Office for attempting to sell ammunition and pipe bombs. Oh, I covered that story. In August of 2019, the ACLU New Jersey filed a lawsuit against the Department of State Corrections on behalf of Demers, arguing that a woman named only as, I'm not saying your name, has been imprisoned for the past 17 months in a men's prison, a situation that was said to constitute cruel and unusual punishment. Another example of the individual, the group having to conform to the individual. The legal action, which I'm not saying those, claimed that he was discriminated against on the basis of his mental delusion and expression on the basis of his sex, and that he said treated differently than other women solely because he is transgender. It was further stated that Demir suffered from an exceptional vulnerability as a woman, which included prison staff referring to him as male, using male pronouns to address him, and sometimes even explicitly telling him he's a man. The lawsuit sought financial compensation for the more than 17 months that the Department of Justice caused him to suffer in men's prisons. Also mentioned in the complaint was Demir's lack of access to gender-affirming undergarments. In one specific example, a bra owned by Demers was confiscated, and he was filed 13 grievances to the NGDOC related to his desire for women's underwear. Since his release from prison, Demir has been active online in communities related to a sexual subculture in which adults, primarily men, achieve arousal by behaving and dressing like babies. Yes, I said that. According to previous testimonies provided to Redux from women incarcerated at Edna Mahan, among the first men to be transferred to the prison after the ACLU was victorious in their lawsuit was a sadistic murderer who had boasted about drinking his victim's blood. Perry Surf was handed a 50-year sentence in 2003 for the brutal essay and murder of a sex-trafficked woman from Ecuador. Surf, who now goes by, I'm not calling you that name, and is now recorded as female, had been found wearing his victim's clothes and utilizing her identification with his photo superimposed over hers. Another male transferred to the facility made headlines last year after it was discovered that he had impregnated 2 women in the prison. That would be Demi Minor. According to Demetrius Demi Minor had been trying to have sex with the female inmates from the moment he was transferred in. Oh, so he had a dick. In May, Redux revealed that a female inmate was battered by a male transfer after she repeatedly refused to be raped. Inmate Shakira Reed described how she was assaulted by Jermaine Gibson, who identifies as trans and uses the name, who had been sexually harassing her for weeks leading up to the assault. Yep, that's right. That's right. That's racist. But that's racist. All right, we're still waiting for Wicked. I want to see if she's got any time to jump on. I hope she does. If not, we're just going to cover some stories. Let me do a quick check. Okay, let's hit another story. Let's do another one because apparently people don't listen. Apparently it's just too much for people to get the memo. I don't get it. I don't get it. What is it going to take? UK drag queen who was set to host Welsh Pool's first Pride Parade arrested during predator sting. No way. A drag queen who was set to host a Welsh community's first ever gay pride parade has been arrested after being caught in a sting by predator hunters. Andrew James Bryant was arrested on July 3rd. I don't even care about your I don't care what your name is. Bryant's arrest was first announced by Stop Stings in collaboration with the Lincolnshire Shire-based Guardian Angels, both of which are community predator hunting groups carrying out volunteer child safeguarding activities. Remember when I said you were going to have to protect yourself? Bryant, who also goes by the name Andrew James Way, is alleged to have attempted to groom a decoy posing as a 14-year-old boy. Oh, you don't say. The sting targeting Bryant was streamed live to Facebook on July 3rd, with multiple predator hunters confronting the man in a public parking lot. I've got in my possession a chat log that is disgusting. It is very, very consistent with somebody who is a very proficient groomer and is grooming somebody who he believes to be a 14-year-old boy, one of the predator hunters said to Bryant, who was casually smoking a cigarette throughout the interaction. Bryant initially attempts to deny the claim, stating that he believed the decoy account belonged to someone of legal age. But the predator hunter immediately pushes back, advising Bryant he has written proof of the decoy, advising Bryant he was underage. That is an abject lie, isn't it? The predator hunter says, with Bryant finally conceding after some discussion. Perhaps most disturbingly, the predator hunters reveal that the decoy account has been posing as a mentally vulnerable child who was unsure about his... So they used him as bait, something Brian appears to have used as leverage. Do you know what chilled me about this particular chat log? The predator hunter asked. This lad you've been speaking to doesn't know if he's gay or not, does it? You are forcing yourself on him. Brian shrugs off the revelation by attempting to apologize. A millstone. A fucking millstone. Your apology means absolutely nothing to me. You have been speaking to what you believe to be a child online, and you were telling this 14-year-old boy that you want to break him in. Yeah, Bryant requested lewd photos from the boy and reportedly tried to make the child more comfortable by telling him that other minors had already sent him photos. Okay. Okay. The predator hunters were unable to determine if that was a grooming tactic or if Bryant really had received other photos from children unrelated to the sting. In addition to requesting lewd images from the boy, Bryant also reportedly asked to meet the child in a hotel for sex and gave him instructions to state he was Bryant's nephew if questioned. The sting live stream ended with police arriving, which I don't know if that means anything or if they'll do anything. The predator hunters announced shortly after that Bryant had been arrested and charged. During the interaction with predator hunters, Brian called himself a drag artist and a drag queen in apparent response to the mention of the account he used to message the decoy. He was well known in his community as a drag queen by the name of Miss Gin. 2019, Bryant was profiled by North Wales Live, which described him as a drag legend. The fluff piece stated that Bryant had been working in drag for decades and first began performing in women's clothes when he was 10 years old, so his father failed him. Bryant retired from professional drag shows that year after sustaining an injury and decided to settle down with his then fiance, Timothy King. Bryant and King, who appear to be younger than he is, were set to be married in 2020. Well, I mean, nobody says anything when old men fuck 18-year-old girls, so I'm not sure what to say. Earlier this year, Bryant announced he was reviewing Miss Gin for the purposes of throwing the first gay pride parade in the community of Welshpool, Wales. This event, which had been due to take place on July 22nd, was first floated at a town council meeting in December after Bryant submitted plans to host the event. But on June 26th, it was announced that the event had been canceled as a result of unforeseen circumstances. Welshpool Town Council has confirmed the event will not go ahead, with the town clerk releasing a short statement reading, the town council and Andrew James Way have decided not to work together in the near future. Yeah, well, the event, which was advertised widely, was reportedly sponsored by major retailers including Tesco, Morrisons, and Ricky Lloyd. Bryant is the second known pedophile drag queen to be identified in the small country of Wales. As previously reported by Redux, well-known drag queen Darren Moore was found dead on the evening of Sunday, January 22nd on the streets of Cardiff City Centre. Following his suspicious death, media coverage is largely focused on Moore's career as a drag performer and member of the Cardiff gay scene, with many outlets, including The Guardian, failing to note that he was also a convicted child sex. Yeah, of course, conveniently. So they blame, so in other words, well, The Guardian also said that when gay men have raw dog orgies, it's not their fault they get the monkeypox. So fuck The Guardian. Moore was once known as Daryl Sewin and had been convicted of 4 counts of rape on a boy under the age of 14. A millstone. A fucking millstone. He spent 3 years in prison. Wow. Moore was also banned with so you wrote a piece of paper. Good job. Just after Moore's death was announced, the founder of Drag Queen Story Hour UK, Sam Samuel, rallied his support to donate to a GoFundMe to support Moore's funeral costs and husband. Well, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem, but 3 years in prison for what was this? 4 counts. 4 counts. 3 years in prison. I don't know what to say. Well, I don't know where Wicked is, so I'm just going to go right to France. So let's take a look at what's happening. So this was 12-year-old Lola. This girl was killed. I think she's the one who was put in the suitcase. How to treat, Macron. Yeah, this is Macron. How to treat women when they are provoking riots in another country. How to treat women when they are protesting in your own country. Yep, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I think that Islam has rightly said that peaceful countries keep collecting garbage as cheap labor in the name of humanity and for their own benefit, and now they are facing the consequences, but Poland is cautious about it. Well, he is a brown person, so he says is
you
weird.
Went to the Muslim countries and you imported the garbage that the Muslim countries wanted to put in prison or isolate away from society. You went and you imported them. Why? For cheap labor. But these Islamist extremists, they don't want to work. They want free welfare. They want to marry French women, blonde hair, blue eyes. They don't have time to work. So look at Poland. They don't complain from Islamic extremism, not a single terrorist attack in Poland. The moment they sense there's a problem, they crack down on it. Polish policy, beautiful. The French, no, come. When they come, they use the resources. They go to Washington, D.C., and they sit in Congress. They support the Iranian regime. They go against the sanctions in Congress, right, with their hijab. Why? Because the ideology is filth to begin with. When you import that, or you allow it in, or you amplify it, or you glorify it in any way, you make your bed, sleep in it. So that is also a problem of the West. The question is, Tina, did the extremists become stronger or the West become weaker? I say it's both.
I have some stories from Redux. So let's see. Going for 2 days. Yeah. Let me see. France on fire. Let's see what comes up. Well, they're allowed to burn the flag. They're allowed to burn white flags. Now, if this was a pride flag, oh man, they'd be in trouble. What is this? I don't even know if I can show this. So we're just gonna have a still shot. Oof. Yeah, we're still live, so I got to be careful. What does it say? Gun to his class teacher. Macron's education system is going without brakes and downhill. Yeah, yeah. We are the Hafez of the Koran. And roses are red, violets are blue. F Sweden and F France too. Yeah. Welcome to the consequences of open borders. Just a matter of time before this occurs in the U.S. Oh yeah. I don't know if this video is true or not. So this shows an explosion outside, apparently, of a police station. I'm late covering this, but it's been a busy week. So I'm not really sure what's happening. I keep hearing that they have weapons and that they're raiding police trucks. So we're just going to be going through a bunch of the videos and seeing what happens. A video of patriotic French people chasing away would-be looters. I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I believe that. I mean, I don't know who they are. I don't know which side they're on. I know that I have seen videos of what looks like white Frenchmen running around with sticks and rocks and bottles and just picking up whatever they can get their hands on. And I'm not necessarily surprised. And it was going to come to this sooner or later. It was going to come down to a clash. That is what it was going to come down to. And when the police leave, you're on your own. And the police will leave. If you keep saying that they're racist, if the police keep trying to stop criminals and you keep punishing the police, they will quit. And then the real question becomes, what are they going to do? Are they just going to allow the Arabs or whoever is causing all the damage to do what they're doing? Or are they going to bring in the military? But even then, is the military going to be woke? Is the military going to just shoot on sight? Or is the military going to just shoot all the white people because they've been told that the French people are racist and that the Arabs are oppressed? So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to go down. Everybody seems to be afraid. The big thing that's happening right now is everybody seems to be... Oh, yeah, this is Macron talking to... Yeah. Everybody acts like they don't understand. France and Europe must learn from Poland. What is this? Oh, yeah, this is funny. Yeah. Afghanistan, 1970, 2012. Iran, the 70s. Iran, 2012. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. Oh, yeah, those women are free. Nope, they're not being oppressed. They haven't been. Isn't that fascinating how you have white women who complain about the Handmaid's Tale, but when they see this, they call this progressive? I'll never understand how that works with people, how they don't get it. I don't know if that's real or not. This is Dominic Tardiowski, and what I'll do is,
if you don't want to be shot, don't come to our borders. Do not come to the Polish border. Then you're safe. It's not us. It's not our police who came up to beat you up, to push you, or to arrest you. It's you who tried to break the law on our land.
May I ask Mr. Toczynski, how many refugees has Poland taken?
0.
And you're proud of that?
If you are asking me, if you're asking me about Muslims illegal immigration, none, not even one will come to Poland. Not even one if it's illegal. We took over 2 million Ukrainians who are working, who are peaceful in Poland. We will not receive even one Muslim because this is what we promised.
But I asked not about illegal immigrants. I asked about refugees. And Jean-Claude...
He just said he took in 2 million people. What's the fucking problem? I mean, it's literally the same everywhere, in every white country. Oh, what do you mean you took in your kind? I don't understand. And they act stupid. I hope you're raped and beaten and your head's cut off. I don't feel sorry for you anymore.
Juncker, the Commission president, says that you're racist. You sound proud of the fact that you haven't taken any refugees.
Of course, because this is what our people are expecting from our government. That's number one. This is why our government was elected. But this is why Poland is so safe. This is the reason why we had not even one terrorist attack. Look at the streets in Poland, and we can be called populists, nationalists, racists. I don't care. I care about my family and about my country.
Yeah, and that's seen as evil, and that's seen as, in this country, that's seen as being a terrorist. And Oh yeah, I saw this one too. This was funny. Again, I'm not sure how the real this is. It turns out that the person who was beaten by Muslims in France was the president of the Angels of Peace Association, which works to keep refugees in France. Well, you know, I wish I would have cut your head off too. I'm done feeling sorry for these people. I really am. Go through a couple more videos and then just see what I can find. Wow. Wow. Yeah. So, and we keep. Yo, that's hilarious. Oh my God. This is hilarious. Oh my God. This is hilarious. Yeah, pretty much. Yo. Yo, that's hilarious. Yeah, and that's how, yeah. Oh my God, that's hilarious. Okay, so they keep showing this picture of this girl. So let me cover that a little bit. So we're gonna have to go to oh, and here, oh, this is another thing I wanted to show. So this is the Guardian, they're trash. How Europe's far right is marching steadily into the mainstream. Whether in Italy, Spain, France, or Finland, parties that were once outcasts are fast gaining respectability and power. Well, yeah. So they're complaining now that the far right, their idea of the far right is essentially white people looking out for themselves. And they consider that a bad thing. And that's fascinating. And I don't understand what it's going to take. I don't understand why your country has to be destroyed by people who aren't like you. Groups are different. I don't know what to say. There's nothing I can do about that. Groups are different. And you know, let me show you what let me show you the girl that you keep seeing. So, French riots, French Algerian teenager killed by police was no angel, while those protected migrant R word and murder of 12-year-old were branded racist and fascist, as Eric Zemmour. Right. So many media reports are excusing the mass riots that are destroying France over the last 3 days due to rage over the police shooting that killed a 17-year-old teen. However, the same media labeled those who protested the rape and murder of a 12-year-old girl, Lola, by an Algerian migrant in 2022 as fascists and racists, according to Reconquête Party leader Eric Zemmour. And is always sad no matter what, but he was not, as Kylian Mbappe says, at the age of 17, he had already a very extensive criminal record. On the other hand, when you demonstrate calmly for a child who has been cut into pieces and stuffed in a suitcase, in an irregular situation, little Lola, you are called rebellious, fascists, and racists. That's right. When you protest a little girl being put into a suitcase by an illegal, I don't feel bad for you. I gotta be careful. When you protest a girl being murdered, a white girl being murdered, you're labeled a racist. As Remix News reports yesterday, the 17-year-old who was shot and killed during a traffic stop had 15 offenses on his criminal record, including resisting arrest, narcotics offenses, and driving violations, including driving with a fake license plate. On the day he was stopped by police, he also reportedly almost hit a cyclist and pedestrian. Many media reports have been silent about his criminal history, with instead many alluding that his shooting was based on racism. Of course, France 24 pointed out that the United Nations Rights Office was concerned about police racism following the shooting. This is a moment for the country to seriously address the deep issues of racism and racial discrimination in law enforcement. Yeah. That's-
des scènes de violence contre le commissariat, mais aussi des écoles, des mairies, et donc au fond contre les institutions et la République. Et celles-ci sont absolument injustifiables.
So again, you're having all this happening, and I know I'm late to the party covering this, but let me just take it back for a second. And this is something I'm just trying to point out. Protests against murder of 12-year-old Lola sparks probe into right-wing groups. Right-wing politicians and protesters have insisted on the immediate deportation of migrants who have been ordered to leave France. So this 12-year-old, in other words, this 12-year-old girl was killed. She was put into and she was stuffed in a suitcase. And she even had a memorial, which was torn down. So you have a little girl in your country who's killed by invaders, and they make a memorial, and the memorial is torn down. And if you protest against it, and if you speak out against it, you're called a racist and a fascist and a terrorist and a white supreme pizza and all these other things. I mean, listen to this. The investigation was opened after the prefect of the Rhone district referred the matter to the public prosecutor. In a statement sent to BFM Lyon, the prosecutor's office said it had opened an investigation into the charge of public incitement to hatred or violence against a group or person or group of people because of their origin or their membership of an ethnic group, race, nation, race, or religion. The investigation has been entrusted to the Rhone Department Public Security Directorate. In a letter addressed to French President Emmanuel Macron on Monday, Lyon Mayor Gregory Doucet called on the head of state to act against those who incite hatred and demonstrate violent and anti-Republican behavior, citing in particular the demonstration on Friday. Specifically, he called for the dissolution of the Remparts, a far-right group in Lyon, one of whose leaders claimed to have organized the rally on social networks. Since Lola's murder, conservatives elected officials have insisted on carrying out the so-called obligations to leave French territory, to which the main suspect was subject. Several rallies have been organized by conservatives across France. Official data from the French government shows that the Algerian murder suspect is one of many who have avoided deportation, with the case highlighting how, despite promises from the Macron government, French authorities have been unwilling or unable to enforce immigration law, only succeeding in enforcing 0.2% of the expulsion orders. Right. Macron even came out and said that half of their crime is committed by illegal immigrants, but he still doesn't do anything about it. And I want to go to news, and I want to see what the future is. So essentially what the EU has done is they're now deciding that, where is it? They're essentially saying, here we go. They're creating migrant quotas. The EU is saying that all of Europe has to continue taking more and more migrants. The EU is a stagnant, childish, selfish, cannibalistic society. Yeah. The European Union's proposal for the mandatory distribution of migrants will lead to an extreme weakening of the bloc at best, and at worst, it will result in the destruction of the entire project, said Speaker of the Hungarian Parliament, Laszlo Kover, on Wednesday at a Hungarian language summer university in Slovakia. Kover said that the roots of many of the continent's current problems go back to the period of regime change and are linked to the disintegration of the former world order, and the disregard of previously accepted rules. He added that in recent years, the result of decades of latent processes, such as the economic crisis and migration, have come to the surface and have surpassed even his wildest nightmares. Speaking about the decision on a quota system for the compulsory distribution of migrants. That's right. The EU is saying they have to continue. They're giving them a quota. He pointed out that there are no answers to questions about its implementation, such as how the people to be resettled would be selected, how they would be kept in the country, and what level of care they would receive. So let's see.
Az elmúlt években lépésről lépésre haladva úgy éreztem, hogy sikerül teret nyitnunk a józanész előtt, és át tudjuk fordítani a brüsszeli döntéshozók figyelmét a kötelező szétosztási migráns kvótáról a határvédelemre. Mert nem úgy kell megoldani ezt a helyzetet, hogy szétosztjuk a migránsokat, hanem úgy, hogy megvédjük Európa külső határait. És így ebbe az irányba is haladtuk. Én úgy érzem, hogy meg is nyertük ezt a csatát már. És egyszer csak most jön egy döntés, elég pucszerűen és gyorsan, amely azt mondja, hogy amelyik ország nem enged be migránst, arra erőnek erejével rájuk fogják őket kényszeríteni. Nem fogadható el természetesen, ezért Magyarország és Lengyelország a döntés ellen szavazott. Következő, mennyit fognak ránk kényszeríteni. Most ezt ők döntik el. Tehát olyan szabályokat alkotnak, amelyek fenntartják Brüsszelnek azt a jogot, hogy ő mondja meg, hogy mennyi migránst oszt szét. Tehát több ország is jelezte, hogy nem ért ezzel egyet. Nem is akarjuk ezt végrehajtani. Végül is egy nagyon kellemetlen fordulattal állunk most itt szembe. Nehéz elképzelni, hogy történik majd ez. Mondjuk ott vannak Németországban ezek a migránsok, és akkor mondjuk azok nem akarnak persze ide jönni, meg is teszek mindent, hogy ne akarjanak, de nem is akarnak maguktól sem, mert úgy gondolják, hogy Németországban talán több pénzhez jutnak, és fogják, és összegyűjtik őket. És beteszik őket Németországban, vagy vagonokba, és akkor áthurcolják őket hozzánk, itt meg kirakják, és meg itt fogjuk őket tartani. Tehát az egész ezt elgondolni is rendkívül életszerűtlen, és ellentétben van az emberi természettel, meg a humánummal. A mi emberi érdekeinket is, jogainkat is sérti, meg a migránsokét is. Egy nagyon rossz megoldás. Nem véletlen, hogy hosszú évek óta harcoltunk ez ellen. Szerintem van összefüggés aközött, hogy éppen a napokban adta át Soros György a birodalmának irányítását a fia számára, aki meg is mondta, hogy ő sokkal direktebben akar politikát csinálni, Amerikában is, meg Európában is. És szerintem a Soros birodalom lendült itt ellentámadásba, azt is mondhatnám, hogy Soros birodalom visszavágott, és egy pucszerű, nagyon gyors döntéssel lenyomták az európaiak többségének a torkán ezt a kötelező migráns kvótát, amit nem áll szándékunkban végrehajtani. Kiderült, hogy óriási biztonsági kockázata van mindennek.
So you get the idea. I don't know what to say, man. It's a dark day. It's a very, very dark day. And I guess the reason I'm covering all this, and you know, what I'm trying to show is what I'm trying to say is the people on the left, whatever you want to call it, progressive, liberal, you talk about the far right and you talk about the boogeyman, and you say that you're not allowed to look out for your own interests. And then when people's children are raped and murdered, you try to strike down the people who speak out. And all I'm going to say is just like with the Chicago mayor, Brendan Johnson, and Lori Lightfoot, and all the black Democrats, how Chicago's a Democrat stronghold and has been for years. Those people were voted in. And at some point, the boogeyman that you keep trying to say people don't have a right to be, you keep pushing people and you keep trying to cover up the murder of their children. And you're going to get another Germany. The left, you are going to create the exact racists that you speak out against so much. You're going to get it. The little mustache man, just like all the mayors in Chicago, he didn't come into power overnight. Okay? It wasn't just this like, and I'm going to get in trouble for even saying this. I don't know what to say. Like, I was having this conversation with a guy who was in London, and he was all against the Azov battalion, and he was saying, "Oh, well, what they're learning in school is wrong. It's propaganda." And I said, "Well, what's the difference between the propaganda white Londoners are learning or white English are learning? They're teaching white children or white English children. The propaganda they're being taught is that they are evil because of their skin color. So honestly, if you had to make a choice, what would you want to learn? That you're inferior or you're superior?" And by forcing these countries, the countries will change, the demographics will change, but you keep forcing countries and you say force, and then you're going to be surprised. Everyone's going to act surprised, and all of a sudden another guy with a little mustache suddenly appears and says, "No more." And everyone on the left is going to act like, "Oh, they're fighting back. They're not allowed to fight back. That's tyranny." Just like AOC and all the Democrats are freaking out about the Supreme Court. "Oh, you mean you mean we're not allowed to compel religious people to go against their religion? We can't compel them to bake cakes and bake cupcakes and they're going to go after the Muslims as well." But what I want to do is I want to give an example and play a video of something that isn't really talked about, because everybody always says, "Oh, well, we want to avoid what happened in World War II, and we should try to avoid those things and not let them happen again." Well, I'm going to play a video about what was called the Rhineland occupation. And I just want to show you, and look it up yourself.
So the opening mission of Call of Duty Vanguard tasks our black hero, Arthur Kingsley, with leading a team of white men behind enemy lines to recover intel on the super secret Nazi Project Phoenix. The team battles across the top of a Nazi train outside of Hamburg, Germany, as it's being invaded by the Allies in 1945. Note our black hero's apparent glee as he sees the German city burning.
Would you look at that?
The tall protruding building on fire in the background is likely the St. Nicholas Church, which was for a brief period of time sounding Friesenberg, who calls into question Arthur Kingsley's British identity. We'll watch the scene play out and then examine its components.
Your Rhineland accent. You must be from Neustadt. During the occupation, you saw French soldiers who look like me carry guns in your streets. Marry your women. That's what I hear when you speak German.
What Arthur Kingsley is referencing here is the French occupation of German towns along the Rhine River after World War I. This was known as Die Schwarze Schmack am Rhein, or in English as the Black Horror on the Rhine.
Right. Now I want to hear if there's a similarity here. I want people to listen and see if there's a certain similarity here between what happened with the girl Lola, who was stuffed in a suitcase in France, and the police beating down and tearing down a memorial to a girl who was murdered by an outsider, an invader, and if you see something similar here.
The French employed black and North African colonial troops, and these troops were accused by local Germans of engaging in mass rapes. These accusations have been dismissed by modern scholars as the product of a racist German propaganda campaign. But the truth, as I will attempt to evidence, is that while we can debate as to the exact extent of the atrocities, the accusations probably reflected very real-life phenomena, and ironically, the dismissal of the accusations may have been the product of anti-German propaganda, both at the time and throughout the 20th century. Now, regardless, the developers at Activision invoked this historical event here with an express intent of shaming German men who had to live under the rule of armed foreigners who were, quote-unquote, marrying local German women. The use of this term, marrying, is most assuredly a denial and reorientation of the alleged mass rapes. But again, the overall tenor of this scene is meant to shame German men. Even absent a context of mass rapes or racial dynamics, it should hardly be expected that any men of any ethnic group would not feel some kind of shame when their women were either voluntarily sleeping with the enemy or being raped by them. Either scenario is indeed a sign of conquest. Try floating the idea to someone like David Lammy, for example, that his Scottish ancestry was the result of a black woman consenting to have sex with a white man she found attractive due to his social status, and see what kind of response you get. But let's discuss the Rhineland occupation in more depth now. In 1920, after Germany surrendered, the French military deployed between 30,000 and 40,000 colonial troops to the Rhineland to police the local population. Now, those figures are disputed by some, most notably General Henry Allen in a report written in 1921. Allen claimed that there were only about 25,000. Regardless, though, colonial troops did occupy the Rhineland. They were made up of men from Algeria, Tunis, Morocco, Madagascar, and West Africa. Eventually, there was a series of allegations against the French military claiming that these troops had been committing mass atrocities against locals. Now, the most notable English language compilation of evidence is a series of pamphlets written by Edmond Morel, a journalist born to a French father and an English mother. Most famously, in April of 1920, the Daily Herald published his article, Black Scourge in Europe, Sexual Horror Let Loose by France on the Rhine. In it, Morel claimed that there was a deliberate policy of importing sexually unrestrained men into Germany in order to inflict harm on locals. The economic poverty in which the Versailles Treaty plunged the working and middle classes in Germany was an incentive to prostitution. Quote, "The men who are doing this know what they are doing and why they are doing it. What inextinguishable fires of hatred are being accumulated upon the head of the French people, innocent as a people for these things, the future will only too clearly show. As a distinguished soldier said to me the other day, were I a German, I would forgive everything, but this, never." Unquote. Eventually, Morel started writing a series of pamphlets further detailing the events. These were translated into a number of languages and widely distributed, despite Allied efforts to have them censored. Now, while Morel did use what today would be considered disparaging language to describe Africans, he curiously expressed anger at French militarists for using Africans as cannon fodder in European conflicts. Indeed, Morel had previously written numerous books denouncing European imperialism. For example, he wrote about the rubber trade and King Leopold's policies in the Congo. In fact, quite a few academics today regularly cite his work when discussing the evils of European colonialism. Yet, when it comes to Morel's assertions about the Rhineland occupation, his claims are suddenly and rigorously scrutinized. Morel wrote in some detail on how the French military demanded local German towns establish and maintain brothels for colonial troops, and that when they protested, they were threatened. The mayor of one town in the Palatinate, who demurred when requested to set up a brothel, was told that hesitation on his part would render him liable to be brought before a military court. The officials then told him that if a brothel was not established, quote, German women, girls, and boys would suffer the unavoidable consequences, unquote. As Morel informs us, however, brothels or no, the German women, girls, and boys still suffered the unavoidable consequences. Children as young as 7 were assaulted and raped on their way to and from school. When local women were able to escape their assailants and seek aid, they were told by French officials that their assailants had, quote, Not been home for 2.5 years, that these things must happen, unquote. Sometimes the authorities pointed to their fair hair and remarked that the black soldiers are partial to blondes. Quite remarkably, several women's rights organizations at the time spoke out against the use of colored troops in Germany. The International Women's League sent a petition to the League of Nations demanding their withdrawal. In Sweden, the premier discussed the atrocities at the Riksdag, and some 50,000 Swedish women signed a similar petition. In Germany, the Rhine Women's League published and distributed their own advocacy material, wherein they too share the details of numerous cases. Now, today we're repeatedly told to #believe all women, but apparently this axiom carries with it some fine print. With this in mind, and considering how often feminists deplore victim blaming, it should be emphasized here that something Morell and his female allies had to contend with at the time was the constant accusation that German women were lying. Then, to add insult to injury, they were further slandered with counter-accusations of being sexually promiscuous.
And we'll stop it there. So if anybody's interested, hey, Wicked.
Hey, I made it.
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, workaholics. Workaholics, that's what we do. We work too darn much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here.
Do you want me to keep going with this?
Yeah, I'm listening. Yeah.
How long you been listening?
I've been listening for maybe 2-3 minutes. I literally came in the door and turned on like the big set in my phone.
Do you want me to take it back a couple minutes so you can see it?
Yeah, could you?
Sure. All right. So this is a video game. So this guy has a channel, and I don't know if I want to show war footage. So I was saying that the EU just passed a decision that all countries in Europe now have to take in mandatory immigrants. They're getting a quota, and if they don't, they'll be denied 20,000 euros per immigrant they deny.
What?
And I was trying to say that I was pointing out that there was this story of this 12-year-old girl, French girl, who was raped and murdered and stuffed in a suitcase, and her memorial was torn down. And I showed an article in The Guardian where they were talking about that they're afraid of the rise of the right wing. And I'm trying to make a comparison here that if you keep beating down a group of people, and when you say their children don't matter and that their children can be sacrificed for another group of people, you're going to create another mustache man, little mustache man.
You are, because there's going to be a backlash, especially when it comes to people's children.
And, I was saying that in Chicago, Brandon Johnson was voted in. Lori Lightfoot was voted in. The Soros-funded attorney, Kim Fox, was voted in. And
look what's happening in France right now with what the immigrants are doing.
Yeah.
Burning the place down.
Yeah. And I wanted to use an example of what's called this is going to get real dark real fast. Okay. So I just want to so this guy's called American Krogan, and he shows like propaganda in video games, particularly what he calls anti-white propaganda or progressive propaganda. So he talks about the horror on the Rhine. So this is one of his videos, and I'll just let it play so you can see it.
Okay.
So he's going to show a scene or two from a video game, and there's going to be some war footage. So if this video gets taken down, it gets taken down. I don't care. My defense, if someone says, "Oh, you're looking up old propaganda," I'm going to say, "Yeah, but if I go on YouTube, I can also pull up the movie Inglourious Bastards."
Yeah.
So what's the difference? I can also pull up the movie Saving Private Ryan. So why can't I watch a video game? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. I'm trying to make the correlation here that if you keep punishing someone's people, the boogeyman that you say shouldn't exist, you will create.
Yes. You will create, and I believe that is what's happening right now with the rise of fascism in Europe, with the rise of the extreme right wing. It's a reaction to what is happening over there.
Yeah, but at this point, I don't blame them. When a group of people in Brussels and Sweden says you have to do this and you have to do that, or they're going to punish you, fuck them.
Well, I what I understand is this: with everything that's happening over there in France,
it's going to happen here.
Going to push France to the point where they step out. They're going to do a Brexit exit from the European Union, because they're going to say this is a bunch of crap.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a step into what's happened already in the past and why everybody acts.
So the opening mission of Call of Duty Vanguard tasks our black hero, Arthur Kingsley, with leading a team of white men behind enemy lines to recover intel on the super secret Nazi Project Phoenix. The team battles across the top of a Nazi train outside of Hamburg, Germany, as it's being invaded by the Allies in 1945. Note our black hero's apparent glee as he sees the German city burning.
Would you look at that?
The tall protruding building on fire in the background is likely the St. Nicholas Church, which was for a brief period of time the tallest building in the world and is well known for being partially destroyed in the firebombing. Now, technically, while Hamburg was invaded by the Allies in 1945, it was only firebombed in 1943, but still I can't help but get the impression, looking at the backdrop here, that Activision was referencing the 1943 firebombing, also known by the Allied powers as Operation Gomorrah, which was a reference to the Jewish god Yahweh utterly destroying the ancient cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. I'll leave you to wonder why they would choose to use that name. Of course, Activision doesn't explore this subtle reference much further. No scenes of huddled masses in a cellar being cooked alive by the intense heat, no images of children's bones being turned to jelly, no screams of old women being sucked into a fiery vortex, and no agonizing shrills of folks as their feet sink into the melting asphalt. Instead, we get this black man's shit-eating grin. But I digress. Eventually, our heroes get captured by the evil Nazis and are interrogated by an effeminate, borderline homosexual-sounding Friesenberg.
And this is a video game that came out last year. This is Call of Duty Vanguard.
Okay.
This is essentially where you're a white British officer, and all of a sudden, at the drop of the hat, you assume the identity of this guy, Arthur Kingsley, and you're just given control of the unit.
Who calls into question Arthur Kingsley's British identity. We'll watch the scene play out and then examine its components.
Your Rhineland accent. You must be from Neustadt. During the occupation, you saw French soldiers who look like me carry guns in your streets, marry your women. That's what I hear when you speak German.
What Arthur Kingsley is referencing here is the French occupation of German towns along the Rhine River after World War I. This was known as Die Schwarze Schmach am Rhein, or in English as the Black Horror on the Rhine. The French employed black and North African colonial troops, and these troops were accused by local Germans of engaging in mass rapes. These accusations have been dismissed by modern scholars as the product of a racist German propaganda campaign. But the truth, as I will attempt to evidence, is that while we can debate as to the exact extent of the atrocities, the accusations probably reflected very real life.
Hey, look, there's a local paper from you.
Huh.
The Chicago Daily Tribune. Is that a real newspaper?
The Chicago Daily Tribune. Not anymore.
1920.
Not anymore. We have the Chicago Tribune, and we still have the Chicago Daily News, but not the Chicago Daily Tribune. Not since I've been alive.
Okay.
Maybe they
Phenomena, and ironically,
maybe what?
I said maybe they changed their name. Like I said, we had the Chicago Tribune and we had the Chicago Daily News. So
It says March 6, 1921.
yeah.
Do you at least give the guy credit for bringing out the old newspapers and shit?
Yeah, hey, bring it out, because if we're talking about history, we need to see.
Yeah. Well, it's going to get darker.
The
Okay.
dismissal of the accusations may have been the product of anti-German propaganda, both at the time and throughout the 20th century. Now, regardless, the developers at Activision invoked this historical event here with an express intent of shaming German men who had to live under the rule of armed foreigners who were, quote unquote, marrying local German women. The use of this term, marrying, is most assuredly a denial and reorientation of the alleged mass rapes. But again, the overall tenor of this scene is meant to shame German men. Even absent a context of mass rapes or racial dynamics, it should hardly be expected that any men of any ethnic group would not feel some kind of shame when their women were either voluntarily sleeping with the enemy or being raped by them. Either scenario is indeed a sign of conquest. Try floating the idea to someone like David Lammy, for example, that his Scottish ancestry was the result of a black woman consenting to have sex with a white man she found attractive due to his social status, and see what kind of response you get. But let's discuss the Rhineland occupation in more depth now. In 1920, after Germany surrendered, the French military deployed between 30,000 and 40,000 colonial troops to the Rhineland to police the local population. Now, those figures are disputed by some, most notably General Henry Allen in a report written in 1921. Allen claimed that there were only about 25,000. Regardless, though, colonial troops did occupy the Rhineland. They were made up of men from Algeria, Tunis, Morocco, Madagascar, and West Africa. Eventually, there was a series of allegations against the French military claiming that these troops had been committing mass atrocities against locals. Now, the most notable English language compilation of evidence is a series of pamphlets written by Edmond Morel, a journalist born to a French father and an English mother. Most famously, in April of 1920, the Daily Herald published his article, Black Scourge in Europe, Sexual Horror Let Loose by France on the Rhine. In it, Morel claimed that there was a deliberate policy of importing sexually unrestrained men into Germany in order to inflict harm on locals. The economic poverty in which the Versailles Treaty plunged the working and middle classes in Germany was an incentive to prostitution. Quote, "The men who are doing this know what they are doing and why they are doing it. What inextinguishable fires of hatred are being accumulated upon the head of the French people, innocent as a people for these things, the future will only too clearly show. As a distinguished soldier said to me the other day, were I a German, I would forgive everything, but this, never," unquote. Eventually, Morel started writing a series of pamphlets further detailing the events. These were translated into a number of languages and widely distributed, despite Allied efforts to have them censored. Now, while Morel did use what today would be considered disparaging language to describe Africans, he curiously expressed anger at French militarists for using Africans as cannon fodder in European conflicts. Indeed, Morel had previously written numerous books denouncing European imperialism. For example, he wrote about the rubber trade and King Leopold's policies in the Congo. In fact, quite a few academics today regularly cite his work when discussing the evils of European colonialism. Yet, when it comes to Morel's assertions about the Rhineland occupation, his claims are suddenly and rigorously scrutinized.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
So if he speaks out against Belgium and King Leopold, it's seen as fact. But if he points out against France, potentially using African troops to do what Africans do, like in the Congo, what do you say, Northern Africa?
Yeah, because look what they just did in, was it Somalia, Ethiopia, the war over there, and it was just a mass rape.
No, I didn't know that, but we can bring that up. I'm not afraid to cover that.
Okay.
But keep going.
Yeah.
All right, just tell me when to stop.
Morel wrote in some detail on how the French military demanded local German towns establish and maintain brothels for colonial troops, and that when they protested, they were threatened. The mayor of one town in the Palatinate, who demurred when requested to set up a brothel, was told that hesitation on his part would render him liable to be brought before a military court. The officials then told him that if a brothel was not established, quote, German women, girls, and boys would suffer the unavoidable consequences, unquote. As Morel informs us, however, brothels or no, the German women, girls, and boys still suffered the unavoidable consequences. Children as young as 7 were assaulted and raped on their way to and from school. When local women were able to escape their assailants and seek aid, they were told by French officials that their assailants had, quote, not been home for 2.5 years, that these things must happen, unquote. Sometimes the authorities pointed to their fair hair and remarked that the black soldiers are partial to blondes. Quite remarkably, several women's rights organizations at the time spoke out against the use of colored troops in Germany. The International Women's League sent a petition to the League of Nations demanding their withdrawal. In Sweden, the premier discussed the atrocities at the Riksdag, and some 50,000 Swedish women signed a similar petition. In Germany, the Rhinish Women's League published and distributed their own advocacy material, wherein they too shared the details of numerous cases. Now, today we're repeatedly told to #believe all women, but apparently this axiom carries with it some fine print. With this in mind, and considering how often feminists deplore victim blaming, it should be emphasized here that something Morel and his female allies had to contend with at the time was the constant accusation that German women were lying. Then, to add insult to injury, they were further slandered with counter-accusations of being sexually promiscuous. I'll cite a statement by the Rhinish Women's League here. Quote, our press has espoused our cause. Some in foreign countries have given utterance in our behalf, and our government has also voiced a protest. But those into whose power we have come, the representatives of French militarism and imperialism, proclaimed mockingly that our press and our government were lying. Not the white woman on the Rhine was to be protected before the yellow and black soldiers of the French Republic, but vice versa. The nigger of the island of Madagascar ought to be protected against the immoral influence of the white women on the Rhine. Unquote. This idea that German women...
All right, it's about to get it's about to go into the small hat. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you'll see.
Were sexually promiscuous is something 2 particular journalists at the time, Maximilian Harden and J. Ellis Barker, may have initiated and then helped promote. Curiously, it turns out that both men were Jews who had grown up in Germany, which is a relevant fact because even in the 1920s, Jews and Germans were known to harbor animosity toward each other. But in any event, in 1921, Barker wrote a paper about the events in the Rhineland.
And I like that he shows the paper right here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I like that. And that's why I find this interesting, because then I can go and look up the paper and, oh, there it is. Of course, it's usually behind some paywall from some, article institution or something. But I just like that it's right there. You know what I mean? Does that sound similar to people in France being told they're racist for protesting the rape of one of their children?
It's what's
it repeating itself?
It's amazing, and I'm looking at the French, and I'm like, ooh, I'm looking at Europe, period, with the amount of immigrants they have pouring the hell in. And the fact that nobody is being assimilated into their societies. And so you've got people pouring in, setting up their own communities with their own rules, doing all this outrageous stuff. Like, okay, y'all need to take a clue about restricting immigration, because it's a mess over there right now with all the immigrants. What's going on? It's a mess. It's a freak.
They're not allowed.
I know they can't protest.
Unless
you're a race. But you've got little girls being, raped and killed, but you can't protest that?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Is the history repeating itself?
Yeah. And
wait, go ahead.
Repeat itself too.
What happened? You cut out.
The backlash is going to repeat itself too.
I don't know. It would have to be a powerful backlash. It would have to be like countries uniting against the EU.
And that's what it looks like they're trying. that I think they're going to dissolve the EU if this keeps up. I really do.
I don't think so. I think the plan is to destroy. I don't think the plan is just to destroy Europe. That's what I believe at this point. Kind of like New York and Chicago.
Ooh,
That the plan is not to build.
no, it's
But
not. It's not. There, you know what? What's going on over there is so overwhelming. You know, and
yeah,
if you really, really think about it, it's like, you know, we in the United States, we have this view that these other countries are, you know, big like us. They're not. They're not. We're a big ass country and we got a lot of room here. They don't. You can't swing a dead cat in Europe without hitting somebody else's borders. And the amount
yeah.
of people that's pouring in, it's really disturbing. It's creating a backlash, and that I think that's one of the reasons why you have the rise of the right wing in Europe, because this is the backlash, and it's gaining in power.
Are you interested? Do you want me to keep going with this video?
Yeah, it's good. This is good.
All right, I got to use the bathroom real fast, but I'll keep it playing. I'll be right back.
Okay, cool.
He quotes Hardin, who said some of the following, quote, "The African Negro type, which one finds constantly displayed in the bitter cartoons of the German comic papers, does not resemble in the slightest the type of the French colonial soldiers. Unfortunately, we have seen the aberrations of the female sex every time when Hagenbeck has shown us tribes of natives. Everywhere, the German women followed the black and yellow men and pestered them with love letters, flowers, and presents. They were not repelled by their smell. On the contrary, they found in it a special stimulus, a special attraction. However, these natives were birds of passage. They were only too often malnourished and sickly. They were rarely men of fine physique. They compare unfavorably with the warriors whose jet black skin covers splendid muscles and who are clad in striking uniforms." Unquote. Hardin was claiming that German women found even the smelliest and ugliest of black men attractive. He was referencing African men who had previously traveled to Germany in Hagenbeck's ethnological expositions. His thought process was that since German women had already found these uglier, smellier Negroes attractive, then they would go absolutely crazy for France's colonial troops, who were much finer specimens decked out in flashy uniforms. Now, even if we assume that Hardin was describing a real-life phenomenon here, how is it exactly that he knew German women found a, quote, special stimulus, a special attraction, in what was normally considered the repellent smell of Negroes? Did he conduct a survey? To me, it seems obvious that Hardin was mocking the German public at the expense of blacks. Barker was himself just as absurd in his rendition of the events. In the same paper, he recounted how he had visited the region for a period of 3 weeks. Quote, "I was told that both the German police and the French authorities in the occupied districts found it very difficult to prevent the German women from pestering and pursuing the colored troops. In many cases, the colored soldiers themselves complained to their officers about the shameless advances made to them by German women, and frequently a military guard had to be called out to keep women from entering the barracks by the windows."
Do you think that's the truth? Or do you think he just has a hatred for German women?
I think he's got a hatred for German women because I can't see that happening. But then again, you know what? I've seen the way some women act around military bases. So we're not talking about just like the average, you know, maybe we're talking about some wretched creatures, you know, I don't know. But I don't think that he loves German women. I don't think it's like that, especially in those days.
In the 1920s?
I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it at all. You know, this is a time where black people and white people, I mean, in Europe, I mean, it wasn't really common for them to interact. And I think German women suddenly going, ooh, it's a Negro, whatever. I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. But then again, I don't see that.
And again, this was at a time when, according to this video, France was colonizing and using North African troops to establish a military force in this part of Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And their cries going unanswered for what they claim was happening to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then people within their own country, according to this video, alleging that they want it to happen to them. And this is one of those things, like I try to talk to people and I'm like, look, it's like in New York City with Jordan Penny being charged with murder by choking the guy. But then the other black guy who stabbed the illegal immigrant who was a bank robber or committed armed robbery, the unfair treatment there, right?
Mm-hmm.
One guy's charged, the white guy's charged with murder, the black guy's let go on self-defense.
Oh.
You know how many self-defense claims don't occur in New York that are let go? You know how hard it is to get a self-defense claim in New York City?
Yeah, because everybody's claiming it. Even the aggressor.
Right. And I want to all right, just keep going.
Yeah.
And then I have another point that I have another thing I want to make to this. Is this interesting? Have you ever seen this before?
No, I haven't. And this is very interesting. You know what? Because I don't know a lot about European history from their point of view, the stuff they were dealing with that is not directly against fighting, the Allies.
Well, this is the Treaty of Versailles. This is the night after World War One. This is go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was like, when the shit hit the fan after World War One, and they blamed Germany for everything, and imposed all of those fines and stuff on Germany, and their economy went straight into hell. It created a major backlash, and that's how you came up with the guy with the little mustache.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's nothing is spontaneous. That's what I try to tell people. Like, people say racism bad, racism bad, racism bad. Yeah, okay. Well, when you start doing things to people's children, they're going to turn around and go, well, you know what? The problem isn't us. The problem is you.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna, I don't know what to say. And let me just keep going.
Okay.
Unquote. This is clearly counter-propaganda intended to shame both German men and women. And this is exactly the kind of behavior the Rhinish Women's League expressed anger about in their pamphlets. Not only were their plights ignored, but they were called liars and slandered with accusations of sexual promiscuity with black men, whom literally every major Western power at the time looked down on as inferior. Indeed, no one in the press at the time who accused German women of having relations with black men was doing so with some modern anti-racist sensibility. It was done with hostile intent, and it was aimed at defamation. Now, the detractors of German accusations will invariably bring up that General Henry Allen's report asserted that French authorities had told him there were only 66 total accusations of rape reported to them against the colored troops between 1918 and 1920. But beyond the simple consideration that the French authorities were withholding information, do note that Allen said the following, quote, "On the other hand, undoubtedly many instances have occurred where women or girls have been assaulted, and some where boys and men have been sodomized by members of the French colored colonial troops. See report above as to the official figures. There are undoubtedly cases which are not included in the official figures due to the natural desire to keep out of obscene notoriety. For example, a case of attempted assault was reported June 14, 1920 from Saarbrücken, which is not included in the French official figures. Some cases will never come to light due to the natural feeling of shame of the women concerned," unquote. Interestingly, the Rhinish Women's League specifically addressed this at the beginning of their pamphlet. Quote, "We, German women on the Rhine, are compelled, much against our innermost sentiments, to lay before the public the following pages. Whoever would read them will understand our reluctancy and will appreciate the fact that we have battled with ourselves for a long time before we could resolve upon this step. For What we are telling, what we call out into the world 1,000-fold, is our own disgrace. It is more than that. It is the degradation of the white woman as such. And on the main, it is so horrifying and terrible that we must ask all those reading it to place themselves in our condition if they want to understand why we dare to go before the public. It is only the feeling of complete impotence and hopelessness which has caused us to overcome our natural reluctancy and which has opened our mouths. Unquote. Something else that detractors like to highlight is that in Allen's report, several German newspapers admitted to having, quote, employed certain terms and expressions which they might better have omitted, unquote. This is often seen as a straightforward admission of guilt, but in the same report, Allen tells us that those newspapers made those statements after the Allied forces suspended their publishing for 15 days. In other words, they probably made those statements under threat of being shut down entirely. It should additionally be noted here that the French government issued a summons against Le Populaire, a French newspaper in Paris that had published various segments of the Daily Herald article. Now, with that in mind, several other considerations should be made here. The French elites had imperial ambitions at the time, which arguably hindered on the perception of successful use of colonial troops in Europe.
So he's about to go into the Italian horror. Because
Okay.
apparently they also did it. They also did it in Italy as well. So I just wanted to show that part as the Rhineland, and I can totally see the fact that they would try to hide it, because what has been Macron's response to everything happening in France? Part of what he blames parents and social media, and he wants to censor social media. So just based off of what leaders are doing now in France, I would have to make an assumption, and I wasn't there, and I can only be objective from the materials I'm seeing in front of me or being read, that of course they don't want to talk about it, that they're having war crimes committed. But then again, something we never hear about are the war crimes committed when World War II ended.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't, and that video does go into a lot of those things. So again, not trying to say, I'll hang on my earphones. No. And so I want to give what I would see as what I consider a logical answer, but that the entire world hates. Can I present that?
Yeah.
What would be an answer to, say, a country like South Africa, where the ANC, or the African National Congress, is in charge? They sing songs about kill the Boer. They had a equity quota, the African economic empowerment, where 69% of every job had to be Bantu. They're now creating, water quotas, where you'll get more water rations based on how much Bantu work for you. They have blackouts that last for days. They only say 4 hours, but I watched an interview with an Afrikaner who said they've had 4 days without power.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's 60 million Bantu, and over 25 million of them are on welfare, which is welfare an African concept or term?
No.
Okay. Well,
No.
okay. How about the same military that's run by how about the same police, which South Africa is a may issue country, meaning you have to prove to a police officer or a sergeant or a captain that you have the right to own a gun. But these are the same people in charge that also sell guns to all the gangs.
Mm-hmm.
They've been caught selling guns to gangs. So in turn, they'll sell them to gang members, but you have to prostrate yourself in front of them. Like, what a bunch of shit. So what would be a natural, what do you think would happen? And I'm not even going to mention all the farm murders. I'm not even mentioning the farm murders. I'm not even mentioning the fact that in Cape Town from January to March, there were 3 murders an hour.
An hour?
An hour. There were 3 homicides an hour. And there are now people who have to walk around with sticks and rocks at night with no light, trying to protect other citizens, just like what's happening in France now. Well, what would be a normal natural reaction? Do you think maybe if people could move away and just start their own settlement, they would, to get away from everything?
Of course.
And do you think they would let another group of people let them live with them?
No.
Oh,
Say,
okay.
yeah,
Well,
we
that's
try.
see that.
Uh,
Go ahead.
no, I said they. You know what? I just got through watching a whole documentary on South Africa, on white people in South Africa who are now like, shit out of luck, poor, living in their own, like, camp, not camp, well, little villages where there's no work. These people are utterly poor. They're discriminated against, all, and it's like, and they're saying, in the documentary, you know, this one place they were talking about, it's all white, and she was saying, I think there was like 280 something, people, and they are living in abject poverty because they say that nobody will hire them. They can't get work, and they have no money to go anywhere, and so they're just kind of trapped.
And they
I'm
have
like,
to
wow,
depend on each other.
that's what's happening to some white people in South Africa. It's like the tables are turned, and people are exerting some revenge of whatever they felt happened in the past.
For the apartheid.
Yeah, if I was a white person, I'd get the hell out. I'm sorry, I would just get the hell out of there.
Well, they also created this all whites only town called Orania. Do you want to see some of that?
Yeah.
And what's funny is, with everything happening and with the country descending into third world, into a failed nation, and all the problems from hiring people who aren't qualified to do things,
Mm-hmm.
this one town that's now thriving, they're calling them racist. So these people then go into the desert, create a town, build their own bank, build their own houses, build their own water irrigation or drip irrigation. They're building their own power plant, and other people are just supposed to be allowed to live there because why?
Say, what have you done to contribute to this?
Right. But it's racist because they won't let the Bantu in. So it's like you're really not allowed to leave.
Wow.
It seems like it seems like white people are just not allowed to be left alone. That's what it seems like to me. I'll let you see.
Interestingly, Orania is not the only example of a whites-only town in South Africa. There are several other similar communities in the country, and their existence has sparked debate about issues of race, equality, and segregation. However, Orania is perhaps the most well-known and long-standing of these towns, making it a particularly interesting case study. To find out in more detail the history, policies, practices, and controversy that surrounds it, as well as counter-arguments made by its proponents, join us in our video today as we explore Orania, the shocking revelations about the whites-only town in South Africa.
I don't see the problem here. The ANC is in charge. They're creating race quotas based on water. And a group of people decided that they're going to move into the desert and just create a town.
Right.
But that's treated as the most evil thing you could do.
So they're supposed to stay there and suffer?
That's how the news treats it. Oh, you went out and you're building food. Well, you have to give us your food. Oh, you went out and you built houses. Well, you have to give us your houses. These poor Africans. Well, the Bantu are in charge. The Bantu, they're in charge. And like I said, there's 25 million of them on welfare. So when the country runs out of money and it falls apart, they're gonna attack this suburb eventually. And this suburb was like, look, we're just gonna get our own guns. That's what we're gonna do. I even have a video of an African family hiring members from the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, teaching them how to survive a home invasion.
Well,
they're practicing home invasion on their farm.
Hostile territory.
What's
I
up?
said they are living in hostile territory, so they better learn how to defend themselves.
Do you know which country is giving them asylum status and letting them move there?
Who?
Russia.
Really?
Yeah, Russia has started allowing some of these white farmers, these the Boer, the
Hmm.
Dutch Afrikaans with two A's, to move to Russia. And of course, Putin's hated for that too. It's like you're just not allowed to be left alone. I I consider this the ultimate example of the non-aggression principle. We're going to go over here and we're going to leave you alone. We just want the same.
Hmm. Not allowed.
Be sure to leave a comment, give the video a like, and subscribe to the channel for more informative future videos. Orania was founded in 1991 by a group of Afrikaners who were concerned about the future of their culture and language in a post-apartheid South Africa. At the time, many Afrikaners were anxious about the potential loss of their privileged status and a potential for retribution against them following the end of a system of racial segregation known as apartheid. In this context, the founders of Orania saw the creation of a separate Afrikaner community as a way to preserve their culture and traditions. The town was initially established on a farm called Oranjekrak, which was purchased by a group of investors. The name Orania is a combination of orange, the Dutch word for orange, and krag, the Afrikaans word for power. The orange is a symbol of the Netherlands, from which many Afrikaners are descended, and it is also the color of the flag of the former Boer republics, which were established by Afrikaner settlers in the 19th century. In its early years, Orania struggled to attract residents and was seen as a fringe community by many. However, it has gradually grown in size and now has a population of around 1,500 people. The town has its own government, currency, schools, and businesses, and it operates largely independently from the rest of South Africa. Orania has also attracted attention from the media and researchers who have studied the town as a unique experiment in cultural preservation. In terms of daily life, Orania operates as a self-sufficient community with a strong emphasis on sustainability, and it has a number of farms and cooperatives that produce food and other goods for the local market.
Now I have a question. Why are they able to grow food? I want to go back to there. So you can grow food in South
Yeah.
Africa.
Yes.
So why can't the ANC grow food?
You know, it reminds me of, okay, I'm not sure of what country it was, but it's one of these countries where they basically tried their best to kick out all the white farmers.
Zimbabwe?
Hmm?
Zimbabwe.
Okay,
The
okay,
breadbasket of Africa.
yeah, they kicked out the white farmers, and then they had to bring them back because they didn't know what the hell they were doing. They didn't know how to grow their own damn food. It's like you live here and you cannot grow your own food, and this is where you live. Like, what's going on? And these white people, they can figure it out. So why can't you? Where's the disconnect?
Man, I really got to I'll tell you what, I should pull up my Rumble account because there was a debate between Tommy Sotomayor and Fanatic. That would be interesting.
Farms and cooperatives that produce food and other goods for the local market.
What's up?
I said, these people in South Africa, these people right here, they are doing what basically white people always do. Okay, we're going to set this up. We're going to, figure out a way to, to sustain ourselves and all of this stuff. Okay, this is what they do. So the people that are there, you've got the land. It's your land. Why can't you do the same? Why is it such a shit show? Why is there so much mismanagement in your own damn country? Crazy.
Yeah, I learned that like 6 or 7 Iranians flew to Israel to learn about, because I think actually Israel leads the world in drip irrigation.
Mm-hmm.
So 6 or 7 Iranians went there to learn about drip irrigation. And when they came back, they built their own drip irrigation system. So they're growing food in the desert.
That's fantastic.
And I just don't understand how the Bantu are, the ANC is in charge of South Africa, and you have the money to give out welfare to 25 million people, but you can't hire a couple Israelis to come and show you some shit. You think it's a matter of pride?
I don't think it's a matter of pride. No, I think it's a matter of the fact that these people are, you know what? Ugh. Somebody gonna find me and just like destroy me for my views. But I just don't think I don't think these people have it. I don't think that they can like finish making the connection to go ahead and do these things. There is something wrong with them. This is your country. Why can't you grow food in your own country? You're not new here. This is where you evolved from. So what's going on that you cannot make that connection? That there, I mean, how can millions and millions of people sit on welfare? Where is your get up and go? Where is your survival instinct? How are millions and millions of people sitting back and waiting on a damn check? I mean,
Here, I'll pull that up too after this video.
that's crazy. It's like, is something genetically wrong that there's no damn ambition?
Orania's economy is largely based on agriculture and tourism, and the town has attracted a small number of visitors who are interested in its unique culture and history. However, Orania has faced criticism for its lack of diversity and its exclusionary policies. Some have argued that the town's policies are discriminatory and run counter to the values of a democratic and inclusive society. Others have pointed out that Orania's policies perpetuate racial divisions and inequalities that have long plagued South Africa. One of the most significant events in Orania's history occurred in 2004 when the town was visited by then-President Thabo Mbeki. This visit was seen as a major recognition of Orania's existence and legitimacy by the South African government. However, it was also met with criticism, as some saw it as a validation of Orania's exclusionary policies. Prior to his visit, Mbeki had been critical of Orania and its exclusionary practices, and he had publicly condemned the town for promoting segregation and discrimination. However, despite this criticism, Mbeki decided to visit Orania as part of a tour of the Northern Cape province. During his visit, Mbeki met with the leaders of Orania and participated in a number of cultural events and activities. He also gave a speech in which he reaffirmed the importance of cultural diversity and called for greater unity and reconciliation in South Africa. However, Mbeki's visit was met with widespread condemnation from civil rights groups and others, who saw it as a legitimization of Orania's segregationist policies. Critics argued that Mbeki's visit sent a message that segregation and discrimination were acceptable, and they accused him of failing to stand up for the principles of equality and non-discrimination that are enshrined in South African law and international human rights standards.
Yeah, but that's all bullshit because they have the African Economic Empowerment quota, which is 70% of every job has to be Bantu. That's all bullshit. That's all fucking doublespeak to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the affirmative action that was struck down here in America. Or like the court case with the 304 or the 303 baking company, the website person. It's like, oh, you mean religious people have a problem with the multi-letter mafia? You mean my rights end where yours begin? Yeah. And civil rights doesn't mean, I don't know. They don't want, see, that's all bullshit. They don't want equality. They want control. Just like what's happening in our country right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the Supreme Court has to be overturned. Oh, this rogue Supreme Court. You mean people got to go to school based on merit? Oh, that's, I was having a conversation the other day with somebody, and they literally said I should be in jail. They
In
said, when are you going to teach? When are you going to, yeah, they said, when are you going to, I said, I really don't understand. You know, I don't understand the purpose of teaching my children about, what if I don't want to teach my children about slavery? What if I don't want to teach my children about the Holocaust? What if I don't think they have to learn about these things until they're like 18? Like I thought about this and I was talking to a guy from South Korea. I said, "What do you know about the transatlantic slave trade?" He said, not really much. I mostly learned about my country's history, not really your country's history." And I said, "And does that stop you from doing your job?" "No." "And do you really care?" "No." "No." I went to a technical institute and I asked, "What do you teach here?" And they said, "Oh, we teach plumbing and carpentry and HVAC and how to be an electrician." And I said, "But what about slavery?" And he looked at me. He said, "Well, what does slavery have to do with being an HVAC technician?"
Right.
And the answer is absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
That doesn't change the fact that Hollywood every year puts out those two types of movies.
Oh my God, they love to put them out. Like, oh.
And and this person was like, "Oh, you don't want the person to learn about history?" I said, "Well, I said, that's a very loaded phrase, just like culture." And and the person said, "What do you mean there's nothing wrong with culture?" I said, "Do you think in the Middle East when they throw a homosexual off a roof, is that a bad part of culture?" "Oh, well, that's different." I said, "But that's their culture."
That's their culture.
"Do you know what bakabazi is in Afghanistan?" "That's their culture." I said, "So when you say culture, that's a very nebulous, vague word that doesn't mean anything. It's an empty word." And I
I mean,
said, and if my kids don't want to learn, who gives a fuck? What does that have to do with anything?
as far as I'm concerned with education, this is my little humble opinion.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
think everybody should have a good general education. Know the planet that you live on. Know the country that you live in. Have a good general education, and then figure out what's important in your life that you really want to learn. Do you want to be a plumber? Then how much history do you actually need? Unless it's the history of plumbing.
I,
We've gotten so our educational system in this country is garbage.
it doesn't work.
It's garbage. These kids are half-ass illiterate. I think they said in Chicago they tested like these kids, and it was something shocking. It was I may be wrong, but it was like 20 something percent of the kids in Chicago public schools actually could operate at their grade level. These kids are dumb as hell. They don't know shit. They're not teaching them anything, and they're distracting them with culture stuff.
Right.
you know,
They're turning them into activists.
they're forcing them to be activists.
Right.
You know, instead of like giving these kids a good education, give them a nice solid base of math, science, whatever. Okay, they're not doing that. They're just teaching them all this stuff to distract them. It's really infuriating. At a certain point with my son's education, I just said, you know what, to hell with all this nonsense. Just get your diploma and get the hell out. You're not learning anything. They're not teaching you anything. Just get your diploma and get out. So you can go ahead and and that's what he did. He went ahead and got into the program with the union to become a plumber. So you gotta live in this world. You gotta work in this world, and we need some practical. We need a practical education. So even me, I pulled back because I know the school system is trash. So I'm looking at, and I work with a couple of South Africans. I work for a company that is dominated by Africans. Every night when I go to work, I'm one of the few Americans in my building. And let me tell you, it's different.
Yeah, I'm well, this is something I have on the screen right now. This is being enacted in the law right now. This is South African plans to limit water for white people by enacting race quotas. South African government.
That is everybody should have a right to water, regardless. Oh, but if you're white, you get less water? What? How is that humane?
Chapter 5, consideration of a decision for water use license applications to promote equity and redressing past racial and gender discrimination.
No. That's immoral.
All applications for consumptive water use submitted to the department are expected to satisfactorily address Section 27 of the Act. Specifically, the enterprise in respect of the application must allocate shares to Black people in the proportion stipulated in Table 1. Right. Shares allocated to Blacks. Yeah. 100% Black owned or exempted to comply with subregulation.
Oh, so if you're 100% Black owned, you self-regulate. Oh, how convenient.
This is from a month ago, so I don't know if it's passed yet, but it's just to give an example.
This is water. Everybody should have access to clean water. Everybody. It should not be dependent on color, culture, anything. We're humans. Everybody needs the same access to water. That is immoral. I find that completely immoral.
I want to see if I can get this.
The sins of the past, we're going to punish you all today. And that's not going to cause resentment.
Oh, maybe I can get it on YouTube. Let me maybe someone read it on YouTube. Yes, they show the pictures. Perfect. I want to show you something.
Okay.
I think I've talked about it before, but I want to give an example of why the little mustache man probably coming back. This is a book in New York City. This is on page 12. I have this book. This book is called Our Skin. This is being taught to first and second graders in New York City. What do you see?
I'm looking. Sorry. This being taught in school?
Yeah, New York City. I bought a copy of this book because nobody believed me.
I don't believe it, and I'm reading it right now.
No one's going to go on YouTube and do what I did. Oh, people are proud of this. This is an accomplishment. This is an achievement. A long time ago, way before you were born, a group of white people made up an idea called race. They sorted people by skin color and said that white people were better, smarter, prettier, and that they deserved more than everybody else. And they got skulls on a shelf.
Okay. You know what? I have heard white people complain.
Oh, listen to the Black woman read it. How happy she's about it.
I have heard this, but I was skeptical because I was thinking that can't be. But I have heard this. Excuse me for coughing. Sorry, I'm smoking a cigarette. My one cigarette of the day. I have heard white parents say, You're teaching our children to hate themselves. Yep, case in point. Here you go. I mean, I can't imagine being a white child and reading that book.
Yeah, over my dead fucking body.
Okay.
Not my children.
Mm-mm.
But on another topic,
Okay.
you want to talk about the Philly trans multi-letter mafia shooter?
You know what? I put something up.
Girl!
And I got censored like hell on Facebook just for mentioning that he was trans. I'm like, I was just posting newspaper clippings on it. They are really pulling in and censoring as much as they can when these people act like murderous maniacs. So let's talk about him. Whatever.
I got the New York Post article from a couple days ago.
Okay.
The rifle-wielding suspect who donned a bulletproof vest before allegedly shooting dead 5 men and injuring 2 children has been identified as a Black Lives Matter supporter who shared gun-toting memes on social media. I don't care about that. That's your right. Kim Brady Carricker, 40, was nabbed shortly after the bloodshed in one of the city's Kensington neighborhood Monday night. On a Facebook page, Carricker posted 2 pictures of himself wearing a bra, woman's top, and earrings with his hair braided long in March. He also regularly posts about supporting BLM. Yeah, I don't care about that. Here he is here. Armed with a rifle, pistol, magazines, a police scanner, and a vest. Shot a bunch of people. He even walked up to a car and opened fire at the car. We talk about posts he had and gun memes that he had. But it's something else I wanted to hit that only the Post talked about here. Let me see. So he had a record.
Killer.
He was arrested in
completely buried
2003.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you say about a killer?
No, I was saying at least they're giving more information about, this guy than, the chick in Tennessee that killed those children and old ladies.
Oh, they refused to release the manifesto.
Oh, they refused to do it. It was like they couldn't bury that story quick enough. That story was gone in the blink of an eye.
Well, it's because of people like this you practice a body armor drill. Do you practice a body armor drill?
No.
Let me be a white supreme pizza person right now. I know you carry.
Yes, I do.
Lee. So my advice is start practicing a body armor drill. Do you put up a silhouette? It's also known as the Mogadishu drill.
You know what I do when I go to the range, and I haven't been to the range in a minute. Yeah, I do. I use a silhouette. Yeah, I'm trying to aim.
Right. So
I'm not carrying it so I can just be like in the movies and just shoot all around. I'm trying to hit something. And my eyesight's not that great, so I really need to pay attention to what I'm doing. But that's why I carry a nice big gun. Because if something hits you, it's gonna hit you. I had to go for something a little bit different.
What I'll say is practice a body armor drill. I don't want to talk about it on YouTube too much.
Okay, you know what?
But just look it up. You'll see what it is.
I'm gonna look that up. And there's a group here in Chicago for women. It's for women who like to practice together. The girls' gun group.
Homage
GGG.
Homage Torre doesn't get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Arrested in 2003, charged with possession of a weapon without a license, which is a felony, firearm in public, and drug possession. He pleaded guilty to the firearm without a license, but the other charges, the drug charges, were dropped, and he got 3 years probation.
Okay, so a menace.
So what do you think of that? So that means that legally he couldn't even have the vest in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have a felony, you're not even allowed to have mace or a taser.
Really?
Yeah. That's why I take it so seriously, because even when you're talking to somebody in Pennsylvania, if you're carrying, you have to be the person that's trying to have your palms up, trying to be calm, you're trying to back away, you're trying to be non-confrontational. And that's something I tell a lot of people I know, like, look, if you're in the state and you start to be aggressive with someone and they seem to be going out of their way to be nice to you and avoid a confrontation, they're probably carrying. They're probably someone who's aware of the law.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and I carry too, and everywhere. And anyway, I just wanted to say that this person, probably black privilege, protected class, drug charges. If you have drug charges, that's a ding. You can't apply for a gun. If you had a gun without a license, that's a ding. That's a felony.
Mm-hmm.
You can't even get a vest. So never any answer about where the person got the stuff. It's just said, oh, they got it bad, got to ban everybody from having it. And let me hit a recent news video. Got an update. Yeah.
Tonight is new developments in the investigation into that mass shooting in King Sussing. Today, the 40-year-old suspect, Kim Brady Carricker, was charged with the murder of 5 people. Carricker also faces a slew of charges related to 5 survivors of the rampage. New details have also emerged about the suspect's mental state and his arsenal.
So this car pulls up, and this person just blasts into the car.
Full of weapons. With the family members of the victims continue to grieve their sudden and senseless loss.
So these are the victims that he killed. Demir, Joseph, Dejan, Ralph, and Rashid.
News reporter Maggie Kent is live tonight with more. Maggie.
Well, Rick, we heard from investigators who took Carricker into custody, allegedly responsible for killing those 5 people in Concessing on Monday. He was heavily armed, also wearing a bulletproof vest, and when they started to search his home, they found more weapons, ammunition, and a will dated June 23rd, less than 2 weeks before the shooting. Kim Brady Carricker was in court this morning, charged with 5 counts of murder, 10 counts of attempted murder, weapons, and assault charges. Investigators say he showed signs to family of growing agitation before carrying out this mass shooting in Concessing.
That was the norm for him, wearing this vest and having guns in the house. But they all described that he was becoming more and more agitated over the last couple of days.
Tyreek Glasgow.
But do you see how they don't mention that all that shit was illegal?
Yeah, no, they're not talking about that. I think they just figured, yeah, we all know it's illegal because he was a criminal. He shouldn't.
No, I'm saying he wasn't charged.
No.
The first time.
No, he got what?
3 years probation.
Probation, yeah, just probation.
And the drug charges were dropped.
Yeah.
Because black man, because protected class. And these are the people in charge. This is the same guy who wouldn't charge black criminals with gun charges. This is the same guy who didn't charge Bivens the dude who ran over Gina Campbell,
Mm-hmm.
killed her 7-month pregnant baby, Mackenzie White,
Mm-hmm.
and Bivens walked. And then a couple months later, he opened fire at Roxborough High School. And they said, oh, it's the guns. No, it's you. You don't punish them.
And so they just run wild. But that's what they
Right.
want. They want these people to just run wild. No consequences, no punishment, just run wild over the rest of society. And these people are terrorists. They don't, you know what? I hear this. I've only heard this from like divestors calling these guys. These are real domestic terrorists. That's what they are. They're terrorizing all of us. All of us.
But these people are just as accountable.
And because they're letting them run rampant. It's like, just let them. Why are they letting them just fucking run wild?
Yeah.
I don't get that.
Well, there has to. I think it's similar to Europe, where they just want to say guns are illegal, and then they'll just keep letting in people to murder us.
You know, and that's what they're doing. They're freaking killing us every single damn day.
I got a story out of DC too.
Okay, cool. And they're just, why are they letting them run rampant? That's what I want to. There's got to be some kind of damn end goal. Something's going on that I'm not seeing. There's some information that I'm lacking. Why are they just letting them freaking run rampant? Is this like white guilt on steroids? So we have to make up for the sins of the past. So let them just kill us all now. They're freaking running rampant. This kind of criminality, come on, this is our society. Can you imagine you're walking down the street and now you're dead because some freak who should have been in jail decides to really go there and just shoot up the neighborhood. Just like that.
Well, he had a will too, where he was trying.
Oh, he had a will. What was he gonna leave?
I'll play that
his
too.
air mattress or his bras?
I don't know.
The last couple of days.
Tyreek Glasgow is a mentor and founder of Young Chances Foundation. Today, he mourns the loss of two people, the youngest and eldest victims.
It hurts. I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
His cousin, 59-year-old Ralph Morales, was excited to walk his daughter down the aisle in her wedding next week.
He was the one that, regardless of any family function, had that smile.
Glasgow was a mentor to 15-year-old DeJuan Brown, killed protecting his 13-year-old brother from gunfire. The younger boy was hit twice in the legs, but will survive.
When he seen his family, his brother in distress shot, he went back to help. And that's what we as a community need to understand, that when we see our other brothers, our community members down, the risk to going back to saving one. If we all had that approach, I think our community would be in a better position than it is.
Sisters of 31-year-old Joseph Wama Jr., who was killed inside his home during the shooting rampage, describe him as a loving man and a skilled sketch artist.
I want to show you the response by the community, and then I want to show you what's happening in DC right now.
Okay.
So yeah, both trans shooters had body armor. So practice that body armor drill, because depending on the caliber you're firing, see, I'm gonna get in trouble now. See, I'm revealing.
No, look. I will be
Depending
looking this up.
Depending on the caliber you're firing, if you hit the person, it might break their bones, but that might not be enough to stop them from moving their arms.
Mm-hmm.
So you would initially have to fire somewhere else to stop them. And ideally that's the head or the hip girdle.
Well,
where the hip bone meets the pelvic girdle, the femur, where the femur, the ball and socket joint.
I'm sorry, but those vests only cover so much.
Right.
Look, those vests, I mean, even a good one only covers so much.
Well,
you're not walking around like freaking RoboCop, you know.
Right. Well, this person, and this is another thing that black people say, when it's a black person, they kill us. Well, this guy surrendered. He's alive.
Hmm. Because he knew how to. He wanted to survive.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to survive if you go in there with a vest, right?
Well, let's see how they. Yeah, probably. Let me show you the
I don't know.
video they have.
I don't know how psychos think.
City leaders and members of the King Sessing community returned to the place where a mass shooting claimed the lives of 5 people, dozens joining forces calling for peace and an end to the gun violence. An emotional walk of prayer was held tonight. Action News reporter Bob Brooks joining us live from police headquarters with the details on what happened tonight. Bob.
Yeah, great. This community, they're trying to find a way to move forward, though we know this is going to be a very difficult road. However, they are rallying, and tonight, Gray, like you said, they're looking to prayer for help tonight.
We want to talk to the people in the neighborhood. We want to talk to the broken and just don't know what to do.
There is no playbook on how to recover from.
There's Outlaw. Failed policies in Seattle. But she comes out here, same failed policies.
Mm-hmm.
She was all for Krasner, too. She was all for it. Don't forget, the first thing she did when she joined the force, she said it was okay for women to wear black nail polish.
That's a priority.
Yep.
From a mass shooting, but tonight, the Philadelphia police, their chaplains, and people of the Southwest community tried a prayer walk to help along the routes. They stopped at memorials made for the 5 victims killed on Monday. It was at those spots raw emotions poured out.
Listen, they had named that. And so we just can't overlook that. Enough is enough.
Yes. Along the route, we stopped and spoke with Shoshana Baldy. She was fighting back tears and frustration.
To hear, such horrible news and every single day, every second of the day. It's like it gotta stop. It gotta stop.
I'm a therapist and I work in different neighborhoods. And when I leave my families, I'm looking behind my back. I can't live like that.
We are brokenhearted over this situation, God.
Also in the crowd was Dwight Olds, who was begging anyone who might have issues to seek help through him.
I'm out here to show my support, to let our community know that we're here to help. And we're going to be out here every day around his youth, around the communities, letting them know that we're here to help them.
It is the city of brotherly love.
Before the march ended, it already had an impact, a positive one. We heard that from those in the homes they passed by.
This is the first step in a positive way to let everyone know what's going on in these streets. Yeah.
Give you a little bit of hope, maybe?
Yes, a lot of hope.
This is all bullshit, right?
This is all bullshit. None of this matters. You know what? This is like, okay, just like record and then repeat.
Yeah.
Everybody says
these
same
are all,
things.
They all say, well, these are all the same people who voted for Krasner twice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because they don't actually want any real change. If you want real change, then you bring about real change. You really don't want real change, because real change, you have to go all the way through the structure. And what is messed up in that community? The basic ass family structure is screwed. And so you got a whole bunch of dusties who are just out of freaking control. Just the lowest of the damn low, terrorizing everybody, doing everything wrong, creating broken homes, not raising kids, don't want to work, don't want to get an education, want to be perpetual adolescents, want to have sex with anything that that has a pulse, want to play games, never want to be responsible, never want to fucking build a thing for their community, just out here, perpetual adolescents. Just the dregs of society running rampant. This is what you get. This is what you get when you allow monsters to flourish. Terrorists, absolute American terrorists. And nobody wants to talk about it because the basic structure of society is the family. And if the family is fucked, then this is what you're going to get. You're going to get monsters. And they're letting them run. They're just letting them run wild. And I don't know why. I don't know why.
This is a video about this person says that the guy had a will.
Hopefully honest, law-abiding Americans out there. And they're also not willing to accept the fact that their own constituents kind of have a screw loose. You'll remember the shooter that we talked about in Philadelphia, who was another trans person who had some mental conditions and went out and shot people, including a 2-year-old boy and a 13-year-old boy. Well, it would appear that the shooter, when he was actually picked up by police Monday night, told them that his shooting spree was an attempt to help authorities address the city's gun violence crisis, and that a deity would be sending more people to help, according to sources familiar with the investigation. But he's not crazy, right? Nobody wants to call that out. They don't care about that. This nutbag told responding officers who made the arrest that they had done a good job. He also told them that the gunfire, which spanned several blocks and struck people, including the 2-year-old child, was an attempt to help police because all these guys are out there killing people. This nut job later told detectives that Yahweh, a Hebrew name for God, would be sending more people to help. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Freaking nutbag.
And right. And then I just wanted to show I wanted to go to DC. So the DC mayor, so this Lyft driver was killed in DC. And then the mayor is trying to pass a crime bill. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
More about a Lyft driver murder in Northeast DC this week, the vital role that he had in the U.S. military. Then, can Meta's Threads really replace Twitter? The new app is under Milcom on Bannister Circle in Waldorf last night on reports of an injury. Fans were reportedly arrested. This is even when telling Brad and officers gone, they are still at large. A final tribute for a fallen firefighter. To this now, an Army Special Forces veteran says he worked with that Lyft driver who was killed in Northeast DC on Monday on 2 tours in Afghanistan. Stephanie Ramirez also has this disturbing video showing the moments before this murder. Steph, so senseless, a life lost and a life who had served our country.
Served our country for many years. I'm told he started working at around 10 years old, doing small jobs first. Now, we can tell you in the surveillance video, we see the victim's vehicle pull up to 11th Street Northeast, drop off the customers, and then he sits here for a little bit, a few minutes with the hazard lights on. Well, then in the video, you see 4 suspects surround the vehicle. A single gunshot is heard, and then those 4 suspects bolt down the alleyway here. I want you to listen to what was heard next, but we also have to warn you, this video may be disturbing.
Who dat?
Those are young teenagers.
What kind of teens?
The thons. The thons.
The thons.
Gunshot
Run a
is heard,
while,
and then
just
those 4
run a
suspects
while.
bolt down the alleyway here.
Right. And this is more proof of what's happening in these cities. You got black kids, black teens driving around in cars looking for a victim. And here's an example right here. This guy was brought here from Afghanistan.
I want you to listen.
So even immigrants aren't safe. So
'Cause
this
they're
whole
ter-
fucking diversity thing.
These are American terrorists. That's how I think of them now. I think of them as terrorists, terrorizing all of us, not just black people in the black community, but everybody.
Yeah, they killed this guy from Afghanistan who apparently was a special forces dude. And this is a common thing. This is what Ak Nation News tells people. You cannot, in these cities with a large black population, you cannot sit idly in your car and be on your phone and talking to people. You got to be on the fucking move.
You got to keep your head on a swivel, as they say.
Yeah.
It's what was heard next, but we also have to warn you this video may be disturbing. In that Nest surveillance video, you can hear someone say, "You just killed him," and another voice replies, "He was reaching, bro." That line repeated more than once. The shooting happened a little after midnight Monday. The victim is 31-year-old Nazarat Ahmad Yar. I'm told, or I spoke with a U.S. Army Special Forces veteran. His name is Matt Butler, and he says that Ahmad Yar was his interpreter on 2 different tours in Afghanistan. He says the 30.
All right, so this guy was killed. And this is just a litany of crime that's happening in D.C. The D.C.'s off the chain. They're reporting like 6 shootings a day. It's so bad that the mayor now wants to introduce a crime bill.
Oh, now? Okay.
I thought that was racist.
You know, DC is a real weird town.
If you carry a gun, then you need a USCCA membership.
USCCA.
The violence that hit us hard over the holiday weekend and new calls for action in the district. A planned safety walk turned into a bit of a victory lap for DC.
What the fuck does a say? What is that? What the fuck does a safety walk do?
Nothing. Nothing.
People have been marching since the 60s. What the fuck?
And it accomplishes nothing.
Oh my gosh. It's either like before I freak out, as Chaotic Truth would say, before I black out. In this case, I'll white out. Before I white out. You want to hear how they discuss it?
Yeah.
And the most irritating thing to me is this guy. I'm sure when the City Bike Karen thing happened, he cried, and our people got to have a conversation. But the way he reports on the Lyft driver being shot and killed is, yeah, it was another shooting, and and oh well, it wasn't to my group. But when it happens to my group, oh guys, slavery, and it's like people can see it now. People can see it now,
People are tired.
Well, you want to hear what the crime bill?
Yeah.
Muriel Bowser.
Yeah, that's because today we saw portions of her proposed crime bill finally introduced as emergency legislation. Now, the bill before the council makes discharging a gun a felony and gives judges the ability to keep repeat offenders behind bars while they're awaiting trial. Ardelia Gonzalez is live.
And that already scares me because DC has what they call a middle ground.
Mm-hmm.
As in terms to like a stand your. So in other words, they tried to take stand your ground and duty to retreat. And they just made up a concept of what they call middle ground. Remember when I tell you people just make it up?
Of course.
Stand your ground is supposed to be a version of castle doctrine anywhere, but New Jersey and New York and commie states like that have a thing where even if someone breaks in your home, you have a duty to retreat. So they decided to say, well, what if you can't retreat anymore? Then they decided to create this thing called middle ground where you can fight back. But now they're saying that if you even discharge a gun, that could be a felony. They don't talk about any term of self-defense or anything. So to me, that just implies, oh, you can't have a gun. Well, your fucking thuns are out here 14, 15, 13, and they always have guns. But you had this consent, but your consent decree where 85% of all people had to be released on a bail reform, or judges in DC are famous for just saying no papers and the charges would just be dismissed. This is a city, again, has 6 shootings a day from the black community. And finally, it's so bad that the mayor is like, oh, we need a crime bill.
Live in Northeast tonight, a neighborhood there where the mayor just wrapped up her safety walk. And I know many neighbors there want immediate change So will this crime bill lead to?
But what changes? You said the police were racist. You said over-policing causes crime in your community. You said that Black Lives Matter was necessary and that everybody else had to learn and change the world because of a crackhead who overdosed on fentanyl named Floyd, who robbed a woman named Araceli Enriquez. The police are hunting us. And now 2 years later, now you want a crime. 3 years later, now you want a crime bill.
Yeah, because the thuns are running
Safer streets right away?
wild.
That didn't happen after COVID. DC still had like bad crime. It's just they rolled everything back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the DC Crime Lab was a pro-black. They tried to rewrite the DC crime code. And a couple months ago, it was blocked by Biden. That's how insane it was. It was blocked by Biden. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We have to look that up. The DC Justice Crime Lab, mostly black. And actually, it was the phenotypical. What does DZ say? The phenotypical. You have a phenotype of a woman who's not seen as attractive by black men. So they have to. The only way they think that they can be a part of the black community is to be an activist. You had this. I don't know the proper terminology. Mixed
Mammy?
is mixed the proper terminology. Yeah, you had a mixed mammy, a lawyer from Georgetown who started the DC Justice Lab, and they decided to just rewrite the entire law for DC from a black perspective.
Oh,
and it was shut down by Biden. I can pull that up too. I'm sorry. It's just when you follow it, it keeps piling and piling on. My bad. I'll shut up for the video.
Well, here's the timeline on the crime bill. The council has until Tuesday to pass this bill before they go on summer break. The mayor then has 10 days to sign it into law. And if she does, and if it passes through all of that, then it does go into effect immediately. Councilmember Brooke Pinto, who sponsored this bill, says it's not going to solve all of our problems, but she is confident that it will take measures and chip away at some of the increased crime that we've been seeing this summer. Now, let's talk about what folks in the community want. As you mentioned, they want a whole lot more and they want something immediately. So they say, you know what, we need more police. And we're not talking about just presence, we're talking about engagement. Police officers out of their cruisers, talking to community members, building trust. And
what the fuck does that mean?
No, hell no. They want the police to patrol like it's like 1957. What? I wouldn't patrol unless I was outfitted up like RoboCop. Hell no.
And can we pause for a second?
Yeah.
All right. So they want community policing. Can I show why they're full of shit?
Mm-hmm. Please.
Okay. Do you remember this? All right. I'm so tired of this. And I'm tired of this because people act like you can't look up a video on YouTube. My mistake. I have cheap headphones. They keep. All right. So does anybody remember this situation? This was in Baltimore. A couple weeks ago. You got a cop. Community policing. You got a cop in Baltimore. There's been a shooting every day this year in Baltimore. The second largest mass shooting just happened in Baltimore. 28 people shot, 30 people shot total, 28 shot, 2 dead. Nobody in custody. Right? Mm-hmm. Is this an example of the community policing? Here's a black officer. Let me say that again. Here's a black officer sitting on the stoop being one with the community. Here's what happens. He sees a 17-year-old kid who has a bulge in his pants, meaning he's printing. He's doing it. And this is another thing I love about young black kids. Do you know what a Mexican waistband is? I'm sorry, I can't hear you that well.
No. What's a Mexican waistband?
It's when you carry a gun without a holster.
Oh.
You use your waistband or your underwear.
Mm-hmm.
And young black kids are famous for this. That it's just in their pants. So
Just
he was
tuck it
wearing
in.
sweatpants. Yeah. I have multiple heavy leather belts because I wear because I'm currently allowed to carry multiple things and not just one. So he saw the 17-year-old kid with a gun and he approached him and said, "Yo, man."
Come here. What, bro? Come here.
Stop! 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 Put the gun down! Put the gun down! Put the.
Okay. Do I need to go back now? So let's cover. So, DC, the black community, they want community policing.
Mm-mm.
All right, let's cover. Okay, so you saw it. That was fast.
This brand new body camera video showing an officer shooting a 17-year-old who was armed with a gun. Hello, everyone. I'm Vic Carter.
And I'm Denise Koch. Welcome to those of you watching.
Do you need to watch it or do you want me to explain it? I just brought up the receipts to prove that it happened.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean you can explain it, but I'm looking at it.
So here,
There is no audio. And Vic, the officer right now is on routine administrative leave. A warning to our viewers, some of what you're about to see may be disturbing.
You clearly saw the officer engaging like we want the officers to engage.
There is no audio of the initial encounter between.
So here he is, right? It's it's a black cop. Yeah. He's sitting down. He's talking to other cops. He's talking to he's engaging with the community. He's being a liaison between us and the police force after years of blah, 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 and slave patrols and shit, which again is a genetic fallacy. And then he sees this kid with a bulge, which again, the law is currently, you have to be 21, I believe, in every state to own a handgun.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have, I believe in Baltimore, you have to have a concealed carry to carry it concealed. I don't.
Between police and 17-year-old Mekhi Franklin on McHenry Street in southwest Baltimore last Thursday. Police say the officer believed Franklin had a weapon.
The officers believed the later ID'd 17-year-old had a bulge near his waistband and decided to approach him. At that time, the individual fled on foot.
Body-worn camera video shows Franklin take off running while Detective Cedric Ellaby followed him on foot. Police say Franklin had a loaded handgun with an extended magazine and refused to drop it, despite commands.
Now, he shot him in the back. Now, what are your thoughts on that? As he was running, when they get to the fence, see right there?
Mm-hmm.
When the kid pulled the gun out, the officer pulled his gun out and shot him and killed him. Now, let me pause right here and ask my co-host. Thoughts?
Look, that's a good shoot. That's a legit shoot. He told him to drop it.
And then the kid, now, the speculation has come from other people that what he was trying to do was he was trying to dump the gun.
Yeah, okay.
Because if he drops the gun, he can say it's not his. Right?
Then drop it. He wasn't dropping it. I don't know what he was doing with it, but he didn't drop that gun, did he? He was running with that gun.
Right. Now, I want to show this. Now, I want to show the reaction to the community to a black cop and what he did. I want to show that too.
Police say he was hit once.
Was the teen shot through the back? Can you even say that?
It's unknown. What we saw is what we saw.
I don't care. I'm getting tired of this. I don't care if he was shot in the back.
I
If
don't care
somebody has
either.
a gun aimed at my wife or kids and I'm standing behind them, every bullet,
Okay.
like reasonable, what a reasonable force. Okay, like yeah.
One officer rendering aid, and that's what we saw. So it's unknown or undetermined right now which one of those injuries is the entry wound and which one is the exit wound.
Officers administered aid to the victim.
Now look at this. So after he shoots the kid, here's the community responding to the community policing.
And picked up his alleged weapon as a crowd began to grow at the scene.
What can you say about the teen's weapon? Have you been able to determine where it came from?
We know that it was stolen in 2021, and we do not have.
Administered aid to the victim.
What do you think about this? Look at what he's surrounded by. Look at all the people coming towards him and giving him shit.
Okay.
And now he can't patrol in that neighborhood anymore.
Hell no. 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 Mm-mm.
Because now, right?
Okay, you don't know who is going to take it upon themselves.
Right. So I just was that a decent receipt at least?
That was a pretty darn good one.
Like here's a black cop, right?
Mhm.
Here, talking with the brothers, hanging with the brothers.
Right? Like
Then he
it's
sees a
like
kid
making a commercial.
Right. Probable cause. Hey, waistband. Kid takes off. That's called an admission of guilt in the police manual.
Mm-hmm.
That's the law. That's the law currently. I don't know what to say. Then he pulls a gun out. So the cop was right, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And the cop shot him. Yeah. Oh, well, was he like it's everything they can do to just protect, like DZ says, protect the class. Oh, but the gun wasn't pointed at you, but he didn't open fire at you yet. Oh, but he fired at you, but he missed. We're gonna hear that. We're gonna hear that.
Oh, he hit you, but he just wings you. Okay.
Yeah, he hit you, but he hit your vest. You're wearing a vest. Like it's gonna degrade.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my example of why community policing is fucking bullshit. Or like when I lived in Philly, you know, when you go through Chinatown, do you know Chinatown has 0 community violence interrupters?
Oh, yeah.
Did you know there are 0 nonprofit violence interrupters or gang intervention in Chinatown and Philadelphia? I wonder why.
Because they're not out of control.
Right.
This is not a bunch of maniacs. I mean, look, I'm married to somebody Chinese. So they're no saints, but they're not maniacs out of freaking control either.
Well, I'll extend an olive branch to the egalitarians that say, oh, everyone commits crime. The crime that the Chinese seem to outperform even blacks in is gambling.
Oh my God, yes. That is their number one sin.
I used to live with a Chinese family, and they would regularly go to a mahjong parlor. No whites allowed. No one allowed except Chinese. And you know, they don't understand the concept of a license. Like they're like, what do you mean a license? I don't need a license. Anyway.
Relationships here. A lot of folks also talked about the curfew, which is already on the books and makes it a violation for anyone under 17 to be outside after midnight without an adult. But let's talk about this crime bill. By far, the most controversial part of that bill allows a judge to detain a young person who's accused of a violent crime while that person is awaiting trial, even if a gun was not used in that crime.
And making sure that we are truly supporting rehabilitation and can set young people up for success after they have been detained is really important. And that work.
What the fuck does that mean?
Oh, you know, we're going to detain you. We're going to lock you up, but we're not going to throw away the key. We still have hope for you. We're going to rehabilitate you.
So the 5 thuns that murdered that I don't know what nationality he was. I'll just say Middle Eastern. The Lyft driver, the special forces guy, the translator. What do you do to rehabilitate them?
Yeah. What? Nothing.
Give them a job?
Not working next to me.
That's racist.
You know what? I've told you in the past, I was a manager. I managed people. I hired people. I fired people. I redid companies. Yeah, I call it what you will. I'm not hiring chaos. That's what I call it. I call it chaos.
But if they have a juvenile record, you won't know when you run a background check if it's sealed.
You're right. You don't know. You don't know. But you know what? If you're out there in the real world, you get a sense of people. Whether, if this person, you want to give them a shot, or you're like, oh, hell no. I see you coming.
All right, let me finish this here.
Work is ongoing. That is not ending today. But what is also important is that we send a clear message to victims that we are taking seriously the trauma that has been inflicted on you.
And I don't want to give anybody the impression that I want any person to go to jail who doesn't deserve it. I also believe, as the councilwoman has said, that every person is presumed innocent until proven guilty and they get a fair trial. I believe all of those things. But if I believe, too, that if you use a gun, everybody knows that you used a gun, the victims, your friends, and you walk out the next day with no consequence whatsoever, we are not going to drive down crime. That's true for juveniles who are acting like adults, and that's true for adults.
A long soundbite from the mayor there, but certainly a very passionate word from the mayor about what she believes this crime bill will do for it.
What do you think? Is this woman shocked at what she's hearing?
I think so. Because you know what? It's like you can see the exasperation, but you can also see the forces at work that, like, she's like, I have to do this because you guys are so out of control. We have to do something. But but they're trying to walk a tightrope. They know these thuns are out of control and they got to do something. And so it's like almost apologetically like, oh, we don't want to lock you miserable so-and-sos up, but you're so out of control. We got to do something.
But now you're murdering our precious
immigrants.
immigrants. But now they're murdering our precious immigrants.
Oh, yeah. You didn't think that was going to happen? These thuns are out of control. I don't know why they thought this shit was just going to stay in the Black community. It's spread. It's out.
Hang on. I have no, they didn't think it was going to happen. Let me prove why. I think this is from Revolver. Hang on, let me find I gotta find one of these. All right, here it is. The Washington Examiner. Just 5 days ago. No, they have no idea. They have no idea. They can't be in charge. They can't be in charge. This is from the Washington Examiner. Jen Psaki claims GOP is trying to recruit Muslim Americans against transgender people.
Yeah, I read that.
Did you see this? Do you see
crazy.
this?
That's crazy.
Like, someone said it real simple. My mistake. Go ahead.
No, I said that's insult. That is so insulting to these people. What you think their culture and everything is okay with this stuff, and you're just gonna cram it down their throats, and they're gonna go, "Oh yeah, okay."
Yes. Yes, they think that. That's why they're so mad with the Colorado website company decision. Somebody said it real simple. There was this guy's channel. Oh crap! What was his name? Hugh. Um, he said it about London when they first London had a Muslim revolt against this whole thing. He said, "Look, you can either get the Muslims or the gays. You can't have both." Yes, they really believe this shit. You really think you're going to bring people from a third world country that have a religion with the viewpoints it has, and you're going to proselytize a completely different lifestyle to their kids.
And they're supposed to be okay with it. Hell no.
Right.
You know, I think that, it's what's that analogy where they talk about, you put the frog in the pot and you slowly turn up the water. And so the
slow
frog,
cooker. Yeah.
so so the frog doesn't realize that it's slowly being cooked alive. They cook themselves alive. They don't understand that these other people, they're not the same frog sitting next to them. They're coming at this fresh and new and looking at this saying, this is some BS. I don't go along with this. This is against my culture. They haven't been broken in by the liberalism in the West. They're looking at this like this is crazy. And I don't agree with this.
Right.
Nobody's recruiting Muslims against transgender people. It's just that the cult doesn't want to admit that this is a freaking cult and they're out of their damn minds. They want access to everybody's children. And these Muslim people are like, no, we're not going along with that. That's a bridge too far as assimilating in this country, because most of the time people in this country immigrants are pretty good at assimilating. Like by the time you get to the second generation, you got a whole different thing happening. But no, that's a big one. That's a big one. That's a fundamental one. And these people are coming at it from fresh eyes. And they're like, no, I don't agree with that. Nobody's recruiting them. This is how they feel.
Let's do one more. Wow. So there's a group. Did you know that every major city is facing an uptick in violence?
Yeah.
Let me guess. They're going to build more rec centers, right?
They did a list of like the 15 most violent cities, and Chicago wasn't one of them. I was like, oh, good for us, I guess.
I don't believe that. Press X to doubt.
An issue that is
Okay, I'm
unique
like,
to Chicago. Nationwide, law enforcement and community groups are now working together to keep America's youth on the right path.
Madison Scarpa.
Who's youth? Which youth? Which group? Oh, you see how they do that?
Mm-hmm.
See that trick they do? Oh, everybody. No.
This is a specific community that's out of control.
At youth violence trends and hopefully solutions here. Madison.
Hey, Anthony and Natalie. Cities are reporting more crime by minors over the last year, and everything from carjackings, robberies, and gang affiliations. Well, the Youth Crime Prevention Program's here's goal is to provide these kids a safe environment where they can learn social skills, communication, and leadership instead of getting themselves into.
So we got to raise your fucking kids. I love it.
Basically.
I love it.
Trouble. The National Police Association says the recent increase in teen violent crime, especially in big cities, is extremely concerning.
We do see a lot of physical assaults. We see a lot of drug activity. We see a lot of higher end theft and burglary.
And underage crime usually gets worse in the summer.
A young person who doesn't have something to do may drift toward illegal activity, whether it's
Why?
Just because they're bored and they got nothing to do. And this is acceptable in the culture. It's acceptable. These kids aren't being condemned and thrown out of their families when their families find out they're doing all of this stuff. Nope, it's acceptable.
Or the family's terrified of them, or it's a single mom who can't control her 14-year-old son because she's afraid.
You know,
Or it's a mom who's used to calling the police to handle her son, but you
right.
better not hit him, and you better not shoot him, and you better not scuff his fingernail, and you better not slam him on the ground, or I'm going to call Ben Crump. But handle my son without handling my son. If you don't handle my son,
Right. Magically handle my son, get him under control without harming him, without any real consequences for his behavior. Somehow magically snap your finger and pull him in line.
Aranya sounds a lot better and
Even though
better every
I've
day.
never been able to do that.
Right.
Accidentally or on purpose. And an unoccupied youth is more vulnerable to things like street gang.
Why are they unoccupied?
Because they're not in school, because they're not working, because they're not being supervised, because they're not being parented. They're just out in the damn street like coyotes raising each other.
And why the fuck can't she say that?
Because then you're gonna start criticizing what is really happening at its base.
I mean, I have to talk about it every time. We watched a video from CBS 2 Chicago that said black women are 16% of Chicago's population and are 53% of the human trafficking victims. And they never once said who the traffickers are.
It's like this magical blind spot that no one can freaking mention. You cannot mention it. It's really, it's like this mystical, magical blind spot. You know, you just have to keep looking all around. We don't know maybe aliens. I don't know how this is happening. You cannot look directly at the perpetrators for some reason, and I don't freaking get it. I do not get it.
No, I don't either.
That these people can run a freaking muck and you cannot rein them in. And the reason why you cannot rein them in is because it's baked into the culture at this point. Because the culture is garbage from the ground up.
I'll finish this video. I gotta head out.
Activity and other criminal activity.
We have so much youth crime going on in our city, around our country.
As part of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Pastor Walter Womack just launched a youth crime prevention program for kids in Memphis. The kids play games outside, listen to motivational speakers, pray, and get counseling.
I think the key to it is showing them love, even to those that have messed up, even to those that have committed a crime. We're not here to condemn them, but we're trying to reach them and rehabilitate to let them know that there is a better way, that they don't have to resort to a life of crime.
Pastor Womack now notices the kids are more excited and they're communicating better. He says he wants these children to look back at the camp and know that.
So all they had to do was go somewhere where you said do better and now they feel better. That's all it took.
Right. Just give them some fresh air. You know?
I don't fucking understand.
Okay, so what else has actually changed in these children's lives that you can redirect them from a life of like just, no morals to a life of being, decent citizens, decent people? Oh, do you know what? Just let them have some fresh air and play some games, and like maybe we'll give them some t-shirts at the end of the summer. Let's really look and see let's look at the family structures, the fact that you have so many people who come from broken homes.
Here's another one.
So many. You have an epidemic of fatherless children running fucking wild.
Yeah. And their fathers now are in positions of authority to not punish the children.
And they're looking after their kids because you know what? He has a good heart. He has a good heart. He's just rambunctious. He'll outgrow.
Well, I apologize. I want to say thank you for stepping on. I got to step out for a second shift.
All right, cool.
Let me know if you got time Wednesday, all right? And if not, I'll reach out to you in DZ's tonight, DZ's chat.
Yeah, I'll be there.
All right, you have a good day, and thanks again. I'll talk to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anytime. Later.